Skippy Lowe, looking at Hollywood. Hey, here's the latest dish. Can you keep it to yourself? Listen, Edie Williams is going on her way to the Cannes Film Festival by the way of tramp steamer. Isn't she a tramp steamer? Did you hear about Pia Isadora? She wants to do the life story of Betty Grable on screen. But Betty Grable's family is very upset. You see, Betty Grable is known for long, beautiful legs. Now, where is Pia going to come up with them, But if that doesn't work, she can do the Liza Minnelli story. You see, she sounds just like her. Keep it to yourself.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Skippy Lowe Looks at Hollywood. Today's guest on the show is one of the original female members of the Fifth Dimension, beautiful Florence LaRue. The gentleman who brings magic to the stage, Mr. Black Magic himself, Mr. Billy Daniels. And today Skip has brought us a young talent he has discovered, young 15-year-old Miss Wendy Bernard. And now, here he is, man of the half hour, Skippy Lowe.
Florence LaRue.
Yes, Skippy Lowe.
Tell me something. What is new and exciting in Florence LaRue's life? Fifth Dimension. You've been doing something. Tell me, what have you been doing?
Well, we just returned from Europe, Skippy. We were in Switzerland and Austria. But it was a very interesting tour. It wasn't as easygoing as it may sound. We flew from Los Angeles to Switzerland for 2 days, flew back to Atlantic City for a weekend, then flew back to Austria for a week.
You are busy, aren't you?
So it was quite a schedule.
Hey, Billy Daniels is here. How are you? My favorite
Hello,
Black
Skip.
Magic singer. I love that song. People don't know you are the original Black Magic. Tell me something about Black Magic. Where did you get that song? How did all that happen?
Oh, a long time ago, I was in Club Harlem in Atlantic City. And it was on the piano,
You mean it's just there?
the sheet music. You know, in those days, I'm going back to 1942, 43, studios used to mail out copies. They don't do that anymore.
No.
Used to mail free copies, professional copies, all over the country of songs from their pictures.
But you know, you've made quite an impression because we have one of the original members of the Fifth Dimension was Billy Davis. And people were constantly, and still, call him Billy Daniels.
Oh, yeah. God
Billy
bless.
Davis. Now, what's happening with Billy Davis now?
Well, Billy is seeking his own career at this time.
Is he?
Right.
Fifth, you look so beautiful. Oh,
Well, thank
God, you're a
you.
gorgeous lady. You're hosting a lot of shows nowadays. Tell me
That's
about
right,
that.
That's right. Well, of course, I'm very busy with the Fifth Dimension schedule. We're performing in Las Vegas a lot and touring on the SS Norway cruise line, which we absolutely love. We'll be taking our 24th cruise
Hey, tell
in
me,
about
that-
a month or so.
That's new show business nowadays. Everybody
Yes.
is not the nightclubs now. They're doing ship cruises.
I
You do that,
love
Billy?
it.
I played to Norway twice.
Did you really?
Twice.
Isn't it great?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing the whole
Big ship.
Yes.
Tell
That's
me
the only kind I could go on.
Are you get seasick?
Yes, very
You do?
much. We played another smaller ship, which happened to have run into the end of a hurricane. Not again. The SS Norway wants us exclusively. They had no battle with me.
Florence, tell me, how did you get into the Fifth Dimension? You know,
Oh
you're...
my goodness, that's quite a story. It's really a Cinderella story.
Is it?
I was raised in Pennsylvania, and I came to California because I wanted to be a movie star. Still do.
You
And,
should. You're beautiful.
Thank you. I didn't know anyone in California, so I became what I laughingly call a professional beauty contest enterer. Now, not because I thought I was beautiful, mind you, but I wanted to enter the talent portion of the contest,
I see.
hoping to be discovered for the movies. As it happened, I won quite a few contests. I was Miss Valverde. I didn't even know where Valverde was. And Miss Coppertone, several other titles. And I did win an audition for a movie, but now that's another story. But anyway, in 1965, I was a runner-up in the Miss Bronze California, which is now Miss Black California, and I won the talent.
I see.
And this young man asked me to join a singing group he was putting together, and I said, no, look, I'm here to be in the movies. At the time, I was also finishing college, getting a teaching credential. I said, I had no time to be in groups. He said, well, just come to rehearsals when you can. And I did, and to make a long story short, that young man was Lamont McLemore, who was also a professional photographer, and I joined the group, and that sort of put an end to my acting career for a while. Now I'm, again, very anxiously and seriously beginning to be involved once again in acting.
Billy Daniels, looking back in your life, I'm going to ask you right away, do you have any regrets?
No, I don't think so.
My goodness.
There's a few things I've done that I wouldn't do again, but I did a whole lot of things that I'd like to do again.
You've been in show
He
business?
seems like he was quite a rascal.
yeah.
I just still is, I think.
Yeah. Billy Daniels, how long you been in show business? You've been in
52 years.
52 years?
Yeah.
Goodness.
Now, you're originally from where, Billy?
Jacksonville, Florida.
Jacksonville?
Yeah. Stowed away on a ship to get to New York City when I was 15. Raised in Harlem.
Raised in Harlem.
Yeah.
Goodness.
PS 139.
Tell me, what happened to Billy Daniels? How did that all start for Billy Daniels? What?
Not intentionally did I. I never thought I'd be a singer or in show business. I wanted to be a lawyer.
A lawyer?
Yeah, and I thought that being from Columbia, you know, going to school in New York would be much better than going to school in Florida. You know, I'd be up there where the money was. You know? And I had a grandmother, and of course I lived with her for a while. And she had a friend who put me in, got me a job in a place called Dickie Wells, a speakeasy
In Harlem?
in Harlem as a busboy.
Yes.
That was the days of the Cotton Club and all that. And I did go to school for a while, and then, of course, I started to sing in this little club. No money, I just sang for tips, you know, around
And
town.
probably lots of attention from the ladies.
And, yeah.
Wait, Jimmy Durante, was he around those days?
Jimmy Durante was around, but he was in the village. I was in Harlem.
You were in Harlem and he was
Yeah,
I see. Go ahead.
And, of course, somebody heard me and gave me a job singing in a little place. And then Dickie Wells and told me to go over to the Ubangi Club, and I worked over there in Leonard Harper Review, and and the band there was Erskine Hawkins' band.
I see.
So he gave me a job as a singer with his band, and I started traveling with the band. And then after that, I left the band and went on my own. And
You're
became
really a
singer.
cabaret act, Billy.
Yeah.
Am I right, Florence?
Saloon
Isn't he
singer.
really,
I think
to the
so,
sense,
yeah.
Saloon
that's a
singer.
real saloon.
Saloon.
You are a real saloon entertainer. Like Sinatra. Basically, Sinatra was he a saloon, do you think, Billy?
Yes, yes. You know, by saloon, of course, you mean the old-time
People that drink.
the drink,
and they
where
wanna-
people drink.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Do you find a big transition, though, when you perform on television or film?
Big transfer. The biggest thing, the biggest difference you will find from saloon singing
right.
is stage work on the stage.
Right.
Because it's big. You got to make it big.
Stage.
Yeah.
Is that similar to, like, performing in Vegas now, that type, you say, where people like to drink and have a good time?
Yeah, but then you got to remember, in the old saloon days, there was no mics.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. It was cabaret. It's small. It was
More intimate.
Sang around the
intimate.
tables,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
sure.
It's near the piano, with the piano. It was.
Right.
I did a lot of that too. You know, I started in Chicago. You know, Billy, I worked with you. You don't remember?
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, I worked with Billy Daniels at the
Where?
Elmwood Casino in Windsor.
Sure.
Yeah, you remember?
Yes, I remember you
Of
working
course
with
you
me.
remember. I was the
Sure,
MC.
sure.
I was a comic.
Sure,
on the
we
show.
talked about
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
I was a comic on the show with you. That's in a long time ago.
You were a good-looking guy in those days.
I don't know what happened, Billy. Florence LaRue, tell me, the song that you made famous, what is that song of the Fifth Dimension? That wonderful song. It's
Well, there's
bells,
there
the
actually,
bells, is it?
One Less Bell.
One Less
Right,
Bell.
I love that song. I enjoy singing that song. We've been singing One Less Bell now for over 15 years, and I never tire
You
of
never,
it.
Billy Daniels does black
Never
magic in
tired.
every show, don't
Do
you,
you
Billy?
ever get tired
Every
of it?
show? Do you ever get tired of that?
I always do it. I have to do it.
Yeah, it's a
Right.
must,
Sure,
same
yeah.
as you, right?
Yeah.
But you don't get tired of it, Billy, do you?
No, I keep changing it.
You change the...
Subtly, I change things. I'm doing it a little differently now.
Oh, that's great.
Really?
We were asked to do a disco version of Up, Up, and Away, which we didn't want to do. We said that wouldn't be true to the record. People come to hear our records. Would you do a real disco version of...
I did a slight disco version in London when I was doing Bubbling Round Sugar.
Ah,
I
that's
did. That's a kind of
Bubbling
a-
Round
yeah.
Sugar. Yes, and New York. And you did that in London, didn't you?
London, never New York.
Never New York, but London.
All right.
I heard you did
London
great,
for a year.
great
yeah.
reviews.
We won the Critics' Award as the best musical in London.
Yeah, in London. It was
That's
great
good.
reviews. Yeah, I
Yeah, the
remember.
show, I ran it for a year. We made £1,240,000.
How wonderful.
Oh,
That's wonderful.
that's great.
Billy Daniels, they love you in England. They love you in Europe, matter of fact. You know,
Well,
they-
once you're a star, you know, I went to Europe from the Copacabana to play the Palladium.
Yeah.
When, you know, Danny Kaye was the big rage.
What's happening with our Copacabanas? Are there going to be any more, or what?
No, I don't know.
Everything is becoming film now, video. And
Videos.
the whole entertainment scene is really changing. People aren't going out the way they used to anymore. People, they want to buy the cassettes and take them home.
And take them
Are
home.
there any clubs here? No.
In Los Angeles?
Yeah.
Clubs to work. You know something? I cannot.
I love
No,
the Kaiser
no, I cannot tell you. No, there aren't any. Not
I mean,
really.
clubs are like clubs.
Supper clubs.
That's higher,
no.
you know.
There aren't any supper clubs, Billy, no. There's a lot of clubs in the valley and just clubs.
More big theaters like the amphitheater.
Yeah,
and,
there aren't any clubs, nightclubs.
I'd like to play the Westwood ones.
Oh, isn't that a great place?
Yeah.
You know, you were talking about Bubbling Brown. The Fifth Dimension did Ain't Misbehavin'.
Oh, dear?
And I
Yes.
loved it. I loved the music of the time, the excitement of it,
Fast
the
Wallet,
energy of
yeah,
it.
yeah.
And, I'd love to do it at a place like the
The one, the
Westwood
what?
Theater.
Would you
isn't
like
it
the Westwood
great?
Theater? Do you really?
Oh, I loved
Yeah.
it. Yes.
Better than the Beverly Theater on Wilshire? Do you think there's a the Beverly
I don't know.
Theater?
There's something I like about the
And
Westwood
the intimacy.
Theater. Yes,
the
the
intimacy at the Beverly, at the
Yes.
Westwood. Yeah.
Tell me something. You're married.
That's right. Almost a year.
Really?
A year.
Congratulations,
A year,
darling.
May 26th.
How many children?
I beg your pardon.
Tell me
I'm
something.
from the old school.
Billy, you didn't know this about this young lady. She helps a lot of children, battered children, right?
Right. I really.
Tell me about that, Florence. You know, she really is a Florence Nightingale because she helps a lot of children, battered children. Tell me.
Well, I do have a teaching credential in elementary education, and when I was working for my credential, I did have the opportunity to work with a lot of children, some mentally disturbed boys. I taught art to them, but even through my travels with the Fifth Dimension, I've seen that there are a lot of battered children, not only physically battered, but mentally abused children, and not just from poor homes. And I became very interested because I also have a friend who was a battered child, and he introduced me to different organizations,
Yes.
and I got the Fifth Dimension to join me in supporting causes to help. And one thing I found is that the parents who abuse these children often love the children, but they have problems that they can't solve, so they take it out on
They
the
don't
children.
realize
Many
what they're
people say,
doing.
well, let's take these
Yeah.
kids away from these parents. They're no good. That's not always so. What I like to see is the parents educated and their problems solved, and to get the families together. To me, that's the ideal situation.
I had Christina Crawford on my show, and do you know her?
No, I
She's
don't
with the
know
battered
her.
children. You know,
No.
she has an organization protecting children, battered
But
children.
children are our future. I mean, I feel that there are two pieces in society that I feel are not supported in our country enough. That's education and the arts. Because the children are our future. And if our teachers are underpaid, if our teachers are not allowed to teach, I mean, you cannot be a pal to a child when you want to teach them something.
Yes,
you
yes.
cannot teach children properly when you have crowded classrooms, because there are different children
Yes.
with different needs.
Yes, yes.
You know, so
Yes.
I want to see smaller classrooms. I want to see better education for our children because they are our future.
Do you think we're getting it right now, Florence?
From what I've
Well, they're
seen,
not learning to read and write.
They're really
That's
not.
true,
The
yeah.
arithmetic.
in
not really.
our effort to become more modern and to teach in the more modern ways, I really think we need to go back to the 3 R's. There is no excuse for a child, an adult, who has gone through school not being able to read when it's so simple.
Simple,
It's
yeah.
taught properly.
Married a year.
That's right.
Husband, Walt Disney Productions.
Right, his
Tell
name
me
is-
about that.
Well, I'm married to Errol Aubrey, and he's with Walt Disney Productions. And, so far, so good.
You're happy. She
So
looks happy,
far, so
doesn't she?
good.
Beaming, I
Hey,
would
tell
say.
me
If we
about.
could just get used to being married to Miss LaRue, it's a little difficult.
Is it
you
difficult
know.
to be married to Miss LaRue? Tell me. Is it?
Well, no, when you're Mr. Aubrey, a very old-fashioned Mr. Aubrey, and you're introduced as Errol Aubrey and his wife Florence
Florence
LaRue, it's
LaRue.
still a little
It's-
hard,
yeah,
to
yeah,
accept.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I think he's
Billy,
getting used
Is
to
he?
that.
Billy Daniels. Married?
Oh,
How many
yes,
years?
31 years.
Oh,
Same
how
woman.
great.
Beautiful.
Wonderful woman.
That's
yeah.
great.
You have a wonderful daughter.
I have, we have
many
2
ch-
daughters.
you have 2
She
daughters?
and I had 4 children. before.
4 children.
4 children.
Wonderful.
So we have 6. And she's the first grandmother. I have grandchildren, but she's, her first one is 4. It'll be fourth Sunday. We're going to see him up in
How
Tahoe.
nice.
Okay,
Mother's-
1 year for me, 31 for you. Tell me your secret.
Yeah, Billy Davis, really, you know.
Patience.
What is your secret? You know, you look.
I always
I'm
say,
looking at you.
yes, dear. Whatever.
Well, my husband won't do that. Now, what else?
No,
You'll
looking.
learn.
I'm looking.
You'll learn. Only 10 months, you'll learn.
No, I'm telling. What is your secret by looking so young, Billy? You know, Florence, look at him. Billy Daniels.
Well, part of the
You know,
secret I
what is your secret?
inherited. Part of that I inherited. My mother was 89, God bless her. My father was 91 when I lost him.
Ah, see, the genes. It's the
Yes.
good genes.
But I'm 70. I'll be 71.
71.
September
Look at that
12th.
skin.
Yeah.
My
That's
God, the
wonderful.
baby skin.
My mother's skin, you know,
Uh-huh.
yeah. And I think my father's attitude, he was a teacher,
It's attitude, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's- yeah.
and he said, don't worry about anything you can't change.
Oh, that's so great, but so hard to do.
That's hard to do.
Yeah, me too, Florence. It's hard for me too,
And,
like that.
The only thing you can change if you try hard enough is yourself. And he drank a little bit, and you know, smoked cigars. And
Happy.
Happy.
Don DeLuise. Tell
Yeah.
me. That's another one. I'm
Happy.
going to get Happy. DeLuise. Don DeLuise. You did a thing with Don DeLuise.
That's right. I had a very small part in a film for television, which starred Dom DeLuise, called Happy. And it's an interesting story why I
Yeah.
did that. I have been really seriously trying to get involved in my acting career, but there's a stigma. Well, all of you singers want to be actresses,
Right.
so they don't know that I was an actress first.
They first. Yeah, they don't. That's true.
Well, unfortunately, because of my involvement with the Fifth Dimension, I had to turn down several offers for very nice parts. When I got that offer, I was performing back east, and my manager said, look, we're going to show them that you really are serious about your acting career.
Yes, yes.
So we chartered a private jet to fly me back
And forth.
so that I could do the part and then go back to work. I think the jet cost more than I made during the movie, but I didn't care.
You didn't, but you enjoyed
It was a
it.
great
Really.
experience, yes.
Don DeLuise, he's fun, isn't he?
Yes, wonderful
Yeah, I
person.
like him, yeah.
Yeah.
But tell me about the putting on the Ritz. Ah, that's special. Is it putting on the Ritz?
Oh, putting on the hits?
That's hits. Yeah, hits. Putting
Right.
on the
Oh, that's a
Hits.
fun show. It's a
Yeah.
show where young people come in and lip sync to hit records.
Oh, is that you're
And I
hosting
was
that?
a-
Are you?
Right, I was a judge on the show.
Uh-huh,
It was a lot of talent. There's a lot
That's
of
hard,
talent
lip
out.
syncing.
Lip
Isn't it,
syncing?
though?
Lip syncing is
Oh,
hard.
it's hard for the person who has recorded the record,
Yeah.
and then for someone who wasn't there when it was done, it must be even
But
harder.
much as I've done Black Magic, my God, I can't lip sync to that.
You can't?
I don't sing it the same way all the time. I change it. Yeah.
Yes, that would be
Because you're the
difficult.
original man, you know, but there are, you know,
You're right.
Billy, you know.
I'm doing Bubbling Brown Sugar
You-
in Philadelphia.
In Philadelphia?
June 21st.
Great. And where
12 weeks.
you're in Atlantic City now.
I finished it there.
You finished?
Yeah, I finished it there.
Tell me about Atlantic City. How's the show business there?
Atlantic
It's work.
City is casinos, you know. And,
Yeah, right.
And of course, it's different than it used
Then
to
Vegas? Then Vegas is it?
Yeah.
East Coast is
Yeah.
better than. I think the East Coast would be more exciting than Vegas. I don't know why.
be. Well, Vegas has more room.
Also, Vegas was the
And
original.
then Vegas has space, you know.
Right.
But the audience-wise, I'm talking about, because you get the audience from New York.
Yeah, no,
See, you got the
You
hip
get
crowds.
5,000
Am I right?
buses a day.
I-
You're half a tank away from millions of people.
You know, you two people, I'm going to bring on a lovely, you know, I have a talent showcase in town at the Le Mandarin Hotel, and I present some acts there every Sunday and Monday, and I discovered a lovely girl. She's only 15 years old, and I predict she's going to be a very big star, and I would like you to meet her. I want her on the show with you two
Wonderful.
today,
Okay.
because she is just a lovely little lady, and her name is Wendy Bernard. Hi, Wendy. Come up here, honey. How's my girl?
Hi, nice
This
to see you.
is
Hi,
Florence
Wendy.
LaRue.
Nice to meet you.
Billy
What a
Daniels.
lovely little girl.
Isn't she
So
lovely?
you want to be in show business?
She
Don't
wants
do
to
it.
be in show business.
Get
And
married,
she-
have children.
No, well, no, I wouldn't know to go that far.
Wendy is only 15, and she sings. Oh, does she do? Oh, great.
How long have you been
great.
singing, Wendy?
Well, since I was about 5, I've really just always wanted to sing and run around the living room and put on the tapes and sing with the tapes.
Is that what you started with the tapes, huh?
Yeah, I listen to other singers and see what I like and imitate and get
Who's your
different
favorite?
feelings.
I want to know. Who's your favorite right now? Who do you feel that's...
Streisand.
That's it. She does.
That
she does
sort
a
of
lot
answers my question about what type of singing you like.
exactly, exactly, and she does. Yeah, she does.
I love the way she tells a story
Right.
and changes with music, bringing it up and bringing
Sure.
it down and all the emotion.
Did you see Yentl?
Oh, sure.
Wasn't that great? Oh,
Where are
beautiful
you from,
music.
darling?
Originally from Sacramento.
Sacramento, California. And how did you come to, to my showcase at the
Well,
Email
we moved to
Library?
LA when I was about 9. I was very excited, a Los Angeles film, and I figured this is where I'm going to be able to do things. And, I bugged my mom, let's take dancing, let's do, get the agent, do this, do that. And, she said no for a while. She wanted to make sure it was really what I wanted, and not just, oh, let's take dancing classes and, blah, blah.
Is that the right thing to do for a child? To prepare themselves?
Oh,
They
yes.
got to know what they want.
I'll
Am
tell
I right,
you,
Florence?
my mother supported me all the way in my desires. I took ballet. I took singing and
Yes.
played violin for
Right,
9 years.
right.
I did all of those things because
Yeah.
that's all. Well, that's all I ever really wanted to do.
She has determination. That's what
it
go ahead.
She just wanted to make sure that's what I really, really wanted.
But even if you don't end up being a professional singer, that experience will help you in
Exactly.
whatever you want to do. It could be a hobby,
Right.
because you may change your mind after you
Right.
get in it and see the behind the
Exactly,
scenes.
behind the scenes, yes, right.
So I did. I got the agent, and I've just always wanted. I've always been so young for whatever I've wanted to do. I've gone and researched different theater programs during the summer, and I always find that they're too little kid things,
Right.
And when I found out about the showcase, I said, well, let's go and see. And now I've been going to different showcases around Los Angeles and performing.
I usually don't put 15-year-old girls on my show, but she
But that's
just,
great, though, because that's the way I got started, entering these contests, because I was, and I still am, rather shy. But when you're on stage, I'm not Florence LaRue, I'm her, I can put away all of my inhibitions and be that person.
Right.
Yeah.
So some people are quite shocked when they come up to me later and I'm really not as, outgoing.
there aren't any nightclubs or places, so it's good for them to
Sure.
perform, even if it's a barn. I say
That's
it's a
right.
live
Right.
audience.
The
right.
more
Right. It's
experience you get, the
terrific.
better.
I'll go to one place, and it'll be this little place, and you think, oh, no, but once you start singing in front of the audience and the audience gets involved,
Sure.
and it really gets you going. So.
I want you to hear her right now. Let's
Oh.
run that tape of
great.
Wendy Bernard, okay? Billy, listen to this. Oh, you're gonna love her. Wendy Bernard. Let's hear it.
That you've been dreaming of. If it leads you to a lonely place, then find your strength in
Ah, Wendy, that was wonderful, darling. Wasn't that
Thank
great,
you.
Billy?
Lovely.
Hey, Billy Daniels, what can you say to this girl? I just like to know.
Keep singing. Keep, there's going to be a new star born every day. Yeah.
Yeah.
And well, think of it. What's going to happen when
Florence?
Florence gets older? And
No, not older. She's
I
not.
get older.
She will keep going until
I
she
predict
drops.
Florence is going to be a very fine actress. Are you studying acting, Florence?
Yes, I am.
You are. With whom are you
Yes,
studying?
with different people.
Different-
See, unfortunately, I'm not in one place
That's good.
a long
Yeah,
time.
so you can-
in each city, I have different people that
Wonderful.
I study with to keep.
Because you're a very beautiful and talented young lady, and you really, I think there's something out there for you, dear. Just have to wait. So what do you think about that, Billy?
Yeah.
It's the timing. What do you think? It's
Being
not
there.
Being there and the timing,
Being
right?
there, you must be there.
Timing.
It's the timing.
Which means you must
Definitely.
sing at every opportunity, take every outlet, and keep finding your way, and it'll make it.
But also, I would suggest to Wendy to also finish high school.
Finished, yes. It's
I
very
really
important.
feel that an education is important, and also,
She
this
is it.
is show business, so that is show and business.
Business.
Learn
Right.
something about the business,
Right.
so that you. you can
She's
take
pretty
care of
bright
yourself.
young lady.
She
for 50.
seems
She has an
like it,
attitude.
yes.
She has an attitude.
Yes.
Even on, you know, she sings those love songs. I can't believe it at my club. Those love songs. When I take her off, I said, "What does she know about love songs?" Unbelievable. You've got to hear her. 15-year-old
What do you
girl.
think encourages you or gives you inspiration
Yeah.
to sing a love song at your age?
Oh,
Good.
well, first of all, my favorite songs are ballads.
Yes,
and I
me
love,
too.
I love, telling the story and really, but as far as, I mean, I'm 15, but I still know what I like, and I relate it to other things I know. I mean,
And I'm sure a 15-year-old has been in love, or
yeah, sure.
or you feel love of some kind, maybe not.
Right.
Florence, tell me, why do everybody love ballads? I mean, their favorite thing is ballad instead of a up tempo.
Well,
I love up
I think,
tempos.
unfortunately, part of it, I think, is ego, and someone with a good voice sometimes
Wants to-
hear themselves.
Yes. Is
But
it-
now with me, I feel that I am more of a performer than a singer. I consider Barbara Streisand a singer.
Yeah.
But I am a performer, and
Yes.
I feel, I mean, to my toes,
Like him.
one less
Like-
bell.
like
so
this.
I like ballads because I like what they say, and it gives me time to
Express.
and to communicate to that audience exactly what I'm feeling, be it pain or whatever. But I like the up-tempo things too, because then it gives me a chance to let that other part come out.
Of course. And you that body, darling. That body, honey.
What do you think
Daniels,
I'm thinking about when I say that old black magic?
Billy Daniels. How many times do you think you've done that
Done,
number?
done,
I mean, really, how many thousands of
Oh, my
times?
God, I
Good
don't know. I
God.
wouldn't know.
Yeah, in Canada. You know, I saw you in Canada once. God, you were at a club called Shape.
Sabri, yeah.
I mean, this
Montreal.
is like 30 years ago, Billy.
Sure, yeah.
25 years ago. Oh, I've been around, darling, show business a long time, dear. Billy Daniels is not the only one.
I bet you got some stories you could tell too, Skipper.
I have some stories.
I want to read the
Out
book.
there.
You got to come to the club and see our showcase.
Yes,
I would love to invite you to.
Now tell us
they're
again where it
Sundays,
is and when.
Sunday and Mondays at the Le Mondrian. We're having a lot of fun, don't we? She's
I
there.
love it.
Are you enjoying it?
I go out and try my own songs there, and
You write also?
I write songs, yes.
Great. Do you have a pianist that you take
No,
with
we
you?
have a good
No.
piano player. His name is David Moscow, and he's wonderful.
Really
David.
terrific.
Yeah, he is, isn't he? Good.
Terrific.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, young people today really don't have to pay a lot of dues, do they?
What do you mean by paying a lot of dues?
I
Like,
think it's a lot easier today than, say, when Billy was coming along. I mean, he
Yeah.
even paved the way for me in the
Uh-huh.
Fifth Dimension, made it a lot easier for us.
Well, it's kind of hard because, I mean, I'm 15, so when I go to some place, a lot of times they'll think 15, oh God, you know. And
But
when
darling, by the time you're 20, it will be
It's just-
look
it's
at the
just-
experience you will have.
I'm getting a lot of experience. And each thing I do, though I may think at the time, God, why am I doing this? It's not what I want, but it's experience and I learn from it.
Sure.
So, you
tell
know.
me something, Florence, Star Search. I mean, what did you think about Star Search? I know you appeared on it. I know, but
No, I
tell
was
me.
a judge on Star
Okay,
Search,
I know
and
you
I
were.
think it's a wonderful showcase. We don't really have enough variety shows. I mean, I enjoyed, I love
Don't you think we
doing
should have Ed Sullivan? Ed Sullivan!
that
Hey,
was
honey, I want to
great.
bring it back. I want to be the Ed Sullivan. of the West
It was
Coast.
fabulous, but it was also live.
I did that
Yes,
show
I would like to do
100
it.
Another
times.
I
Ed.
would love
Yeah.
to do it. Love
Wasn't
to
it
do
I
great?
did it
Really?
100 times.
Oh.
You've done it hundreds of times, haven't
Many
you?
times, sure.
The Ed Sullivan.
Yeah.
That is,
So
that was...
I love Star
I think
Search.
Toady Fields, remember Toady Fields?
Of
We
course.
did
Toady
it.
Fields?
We were on it every other week.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Skip E. Lowe Looks at Hollywood. Tonight's guests are that exciting singing star, Miss Roslyn Kind, and also two of Hollywood's hottest stars designers, Randy McLaughlin and Jerry Skeels. And now, ladies and gentlemen, Here he is, Hollywood's one-of-a-kind, Skip E. Lowe.
She's one of the talk-about young stars in France right now, Miss Roslyn Kind. Hello, Roslyn.
Hi, Skip. How you doing?
How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
When did it all happen? Singing Rage of
God,
Paris.
Just
Fine.
recently, you know, you get discovered, you
Just
wait
like-
years, and suddenly there it is, and you're an overnight success.
Right. You're recording there? Doing everything?
A lot of the recording I've been doing here,
Uh-huh.
and it's going over there.
Oh, you do it here?
Yeah,
I
so
see.
far. I probably will be recording there when I go
Uh-huh.
over again.
And you've been working with Charles Aznavour and all these people?
Yeah, I've done that, and I'm working in conjunction with Jackie Lombard Productions,
Uh-huh.
and it's
What's
quite
that all
exciting.
about, Jackie Lombard?
Well, she's actually the actual producer of the records,
Uh-huh.
and she's also a promoter for concerts,
Mm-hmm.
and she sets all that up.
Does she?
Yes, she does.
And you pick out your own songs, Roslyn?
No, it's kind of a community thing that we do. We all look and we all
Yeah,
pick.
You pick, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the last time I saw you was at the Black Lot in Studio One here in Los Angeles.
Nightclub.
Nightclub, right,
Same.
which is one of the talk-about clubs in town.
Definitely, it's the only place I work when I'm here. Well, I've worked a couple of other places, but that's my main spot.
Is it? I'd love to hear you
Until then,
sing.
here I go.
I'd love to hear you sing. Ladies and gentlemen, right now, Miss Roslyn Kind.
The snow has disappeared, the clouds have lifted. Spring is here, the time has come for lovers' play. So why do you go away? Tears are falling down like rain. My heart is crying out in pain. My nights are filled with memories of how it used to be. Time probably will heal. Now I must conceal this agony I feel. In time I probably will find some joy, some peace of mind that will destroy the sadness that I feel. I don't want to feel so sad, alone in loneliness, nothing but emptiness. I don't want to feel so sad. Sad is the only thing I feel. Nothing else is real when I'm sad. I don't want to feel so sad. Now I feel my life is out of rhyme. I feel I'm standing still in time. It seems like only yesterday you said you'd stay. Time probably will heal. Now I must conceal this agony I feel. In time I probably will find some joy, some peace of mind that will destroy the sadness that I feel. I don't want to feel so sad, alone in loneliness, nothing but emptiness. I don't want to feel so sad. Sad is the only thing I feel. Nothing else is real when I'm sad. I don't want to feel so
Beautiful. Miss Eartha Kitt, international entertainer. I mean, you've worked for the best people in the world. Eartha Kitt why America? Why you live here in America when here in America? Why not Europe?
Mm-hmm.
Why not Europe? Why not Paris or Rome? Why America?
I love this country.
You love this country.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
With doubts and with reasons. I love this country. I love this country. I love the originalism behind the country.
Yes, yes.
I do not like the political
Mm-hmm.
side of the isms that is happening
Mm-hmm.
because of the, what do you call that, innuendos within the boundaries of the, what do you call that, the Bill of Rights and the Civil Rights and the Digada and the Tokoto. Everybody is using it abusedly.
Eartha, what would you like to see? What would you like to see done?
Just a moment.
Go ahead.
Baby, I understand you and I love you very much.
Go ahead.
But excuse me if I'm talking on top of it.
Go ahead.
Because my mind sometimes thinks faster than my tongue can speak. The ism behind America seemingly has been that we kill culture. They killed intellect.
They means the government.
They meaning the government
yes.
and also the church.
Church, okay.
Oppresses the brain so that you are not a thinking person.
Yes.
In order for you to be able to survive on your own. This has been a terribly traumatic situation with America, who feels America gave you and me
the opportunity
to feel that we are entitled to think freely, do our own thing, plant our own seed, and then have ourselves grow according to the way we feel our ability is able to grow. Then when we get to this point, they say, no, you cannot do that.
They push you.
You're punished for it.
Yes, yes.
You're punished for the growing of your ability. You're punished for the growth of your own ability in order to survive.
Yes, yes, yes.
Then, on top of that, goodies come along and they say, oh, we cannot afford to take care of. We want the government to be responsible for the non-thinking people. And the non-thinking people are very smart.
What do you mean by very smart, Eartha?
They are very smart because they say, if that is the way the game should be played,
they'll play it. Right.
Therefore, you and me, as a working person, have to take care of the weak because they know the game. They know how to use the working people in order for them to survive.
Yes.
Therefore, you and me, as a working person, are used, abused, and then accused. I say, okay, I feel tukutukudo, whatever I feel about you, as a person who is very young. You cannot take care of yourself. Okay, I say, okay, maybe I can take care of you. I do my best. Then you say, okay, you are very old. Okay, I take care of you. I take care of you, and I take care of you, and I take care of you. In the meantime, my energy as a working person is being drained and is pushed and pulled against my energies in order for me to take care of the weak and the meek. I say, okay, that's okay. But now, enough is enough.
I would like to start working in movies again.
You are?
Which I did.
Yes.
Yeah.
15 years you haven't been in this is the first point?
Yes.
In 15 years?
Yeah, and I get to work with a lot of young dudes.
Young dudes, what do you mean by that? Like,
Young.
well, the pictures are
I mean,
young
it's,
today.
yeah, it's a very young movie, and a lot of young, talented guys that are coming up that should probably be our future stars.
That hairdo, what happened to it? It's,
Oh, you
I
noticed.
noticed your hair. It
Well,
was
I'm letting it grow natural.
That's your natural hair.
And I didn't know what color it was until I let the roots grow out, and I go, oh, I thought maybe I'd be silver gray, but I turned out to have brown hair.
I love it.
And also, I used to pluck all my eyebrows out. I've got eyebrows, and I just think they grow in, so I've got my own eyebrows, and I got my own hair, so I'm really happy.
You look wonderful.
Thank you.
Mamie, tell me something. The new movie, Free Ride.
Free Ride.
And it's about, what is it about, really?
Well, my role is an oversexed nurse that she's a nurse on a campus where there are the men and the young guys and the young girls, and it just goes on and on and on, and I'm sort of on the make for a lot of kids.
And I understand you did the singing in the film.
Yes, Young Dudes I recorded with Rhino Records, which will be out tomorrow.
Ah,
You happen to have a copy?
I do, yeah, I do.
This is Young Dudes. Well,
this is Young Dudes?
Yeah, Young Dudes, and this Free Ride is the movie, and that's in the movie.
Mamie, I'm looking at the monitor.
Oh,
You
okay.
look beautiful.
Oh.
God, you look gorgeous.
God, thanks.
Look at this. This is your new...
The new one. In the other,
and this is...
yeah.
Let's take a close look at that. Isn't that beautiful?
And this is like for discos, and it's. I also have another song called Queen of Pleasure.
What was all that giggling over there about? Was that giggling you over there? I heard it behind my ear.
Chuckling and listening to $125 a week. That was a lot of money.
Yeah, it was.
Saloons. Those are the days, right, Norm?
Those were great days. Those were days when we had places to work, Skip, where you could learn, you could become polished, you could become an act. Working in little weekend clubs and little crummy, you know.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, that's the problem today with comedy. See, singing, dancing, not to take away from anybody's talent.
Right.
But you can sing by yourself in a room and practice. You can dance in a room and practice. You can go into a studio or rehearsal hall and learn to do magic or juggle.
Right.
But comedy, you must do in front of people. Otherwise, you can't practice a joke by yourself in a room.
No. But not 5 or 6 minutes like the Comedy Store comics. They get
Well,
up there
right, exactly,
and they do
but
5
I'm saying
minutes.
that there's no place for the kids to learn their trade. They go out in the comedy shops.
But 5 minutes, Norm.
And
they can't learn.
That's all they've got.
That's it. I can't learn.
And not only that,
know?
but it's a room full of friends, usually kids from school.
Showcases, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
And a studio, if they get a shot on a talk show, that's not a true test either, because the audience has probably waited 6 months to get tickets to come to the show. They're so thrilled to be there, sitting in the Carson show.
When did it all begin with Norm Crosby? Tell me. Let's get back
Well,
to
I was
Norm.
born. That started it.
Yeah.
I was born, I guess, and as a child, I was young. Then I got older, and I blew it. Somehow I grew up. I matured.
How did you get into show business, Norm? That's
Well, you want to know the truth?
Yeah, I really want.
I was a commercial artist. I went to Massachusetts School of Art.
From Boston, you are.
From Boston, right. I grew up in Boston, and I was raised by my parents. Who said it? I was kidnapped by wolves and raised by kidnapped from wolves and raised by my parents. Yeah. But I was working at that trade. I was doing. I was the advertising manager for a big retail shoe company, and I had about 40 stores that I was responsible for. I did the display advertising, newspaper, magazine, and so forth. And I had the bug. I had like I was a funny kid, like most comedians start out. I'm sure you know.
You did it at the mitzvahs
Funny
and stuff like that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Funny kid in your neighborhood, funny kid in your pool room, funny kid for your friends.
Right.
And enough people tell you, they say, gee, you're funny, you should be a comedian. And you think about it. I say, maybe I should be a comedian.
But, Norm, what was your big break, though? I mean, like the Ed Sullivan Show? Or
No, I'll tell you what the big break was.
Break?
Now, you would remember, too, because you know that area. You remember the Lowe's theaters,
Of course I
E.M.
do.
Lowe,
Of course.
who owned the Latin Quarter in New York? Okay. E.M. Lowe would go to all the local functions because he was a big philanthropic local man, financier, and he, not only that, but he had money, you know.
Yeah.
And I was doing,
helps.
I was doing all the big club dates, Skip. At the time, I would do the governor's birthday ball or the mayor's charity night or whatever. And Mr. Lowe would come to those things, and he saw me half a dozen times. And one day he walked up to me and said, "I own the Latin Quarter in New York, and I'm going to put you in for a week." And that was it.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to meet Rudy Valley. Let's get Rudy Valley. Look at him. Hello, Rudy. Come on. Come out there. Come up, Rudy. Come on. Rudy, yes. Sure. Come on, Rudy. Oh, that's all right, Rudy.
I was just telling you about the vagabond lover.
How are you? Great vagabond lover. Now, why do they call you the Susanna Foster, Rudy Valley?
Because of the song called
Because of the song.
It was the first record she heard of mine.
Yes. I had him in 1929. I was 4 years old.
And so they titled that for you, the Rudy Valley, the Vagabond.
We decided to call my first picture dark. We never mentioned this picture in our family. They're still fumigating the theaters where it was shown.
They did make a film of that?
Yes.
Really?
They did, yes.
My first visit to Hollywood. This is supposed to have it on the back, but this one was...
When did you first come to Hollywood? When did you first come to Hollywood, Rudy?
1929.
1929.
September, Labor Day weekend, 1929.
Was this the first 1,000 that you made, or what?
What? No, I give you my card. In printing this, they didn't put... It's supposed to be, the address is supposed to be in the back.
Oh, you're giving this to me.
What was your first...
It's a gag. It's a sound again worth $1,000.
What was your first motion picture?
The Vagabond Lovers.
Vagabond Lovers. And who was in that?
RKO, 1929.
Who was in that?
A really young sister. And I can't think of her name. It wasn't young, but I can't think of her name.
Tell me something. Alice Faye. You...
If I had not an affected left foot...
Yeah.
On a 5-week tour in 1932. She was in George White's Scandal with me. We finished our tour after the stage show. Our tour ended in Chicago, and Alice left a number with me. I never had any really romantic dealings with her because I was married to Faye Webb. And by this time, Faye Webb is on the coast, and we are separated. We finished our tour in Chicago, and Alice gave me her phone number. A few days later, I'm on the tour of one-nighters with a badly infected left foot. It needed wet compresses of Burroughs solution every 3 hours to be changed. And the kid that was doing it got drunk and disappeared, a kid from Maine. So I called Alice and I said, get your rent at Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. We're playing the Hershey Pavilion and travel with me for the next 5 weeks and take care of me. So you should sing in the car, Mamie, Mamie, a year ago. 5 weeks later, we get to Atlantic City to Steel Pier. The foot had almost cleared up by this time. And we're playing a tea dance. I have the record. I played 9 Labor Day weekends at Steel Pier, Atlantic City. 1,000 person dancing.
Yes.
So I gave the key for the Mamie, and I pushed her out with bobby socks and all. The crowd was crazy about it. I said, we opened the Carter Hotel, Justin Dillon's in Cleveland, Ohio, next Friday night. Here's $300. Get yourself 2 satin gowns. You're my girl dance singer. So we continued to work. Go down to Miami in 1933. Only one hotel on the beach, the Roney Plaza. We played North and South Carolina and so forth. She's now my girl dance singer. Made a couple of records and so forth. So in 1933, George White decides to make the film at Fox, not 20th Century Fox, Fox.
Fox Studios.
Right.
George White's Scandal at Fox, and they have a leading lady from Vienna. And they get Jimmy Durante as a comedian. So I persuade George White to come up to the Bronx and see Alice sing in a nightclub before we go to Hollywood. Right. So they write, oh, you nasty man, for her special.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Do you?
Oh, you nasty man.
So they write the song, $500 to sing one song in the film, train fare back and forth. Lillian Harvey, the Viennese actress, decides not to do the film. I never even met her. I know they do. They look at the rushes of Alice singing "Oh, Nice Man." They talk to George White. He says, "I don't own her." Rudy Valley did. So I called Charlie Feldman, who was a young attorney.
Said that Rudy Valley owned Alice Faye?
What? Yes, she was with my band from the contract to me.
Right.
I'd taken her from little girl in George White's Scandal to now a girl band singer. Put her in the air. Put her in the air, made some records with her, and she sang with my band.
Right.
So I know they're going to come to me and say, what do you want? You want one for it? So I called Charlie Feldman, who's a young attorney I just met. Just started out as an attorney. Later on became famous artist, Ingrid Bergen.
God, you've known everybody.
I said, Charlie, what should I ask for? He says, $500. This is Fox Luncheon. $500.
$500.
That's how she started.
Yeah. Marie, you know what I'm going to do right now? I'm going to bring a gentleman that you have worked with in a motion picture called The Jungle. He is one of Hollywood's great actors. He is really a movie star, too. And believe me when I say handsome, and he looks younger than ever. Cesar Romero.
Hello, Cesar.
Hi.
How are you? Nice seeing you.
Hi, sweetie.
Dear.
Cesar, they
How are
called
you?
you
Fine.
Butch. Now, did you know they call him Butch?
Yes.
Yeah, why do they call you Butch? Tell me.
Well, back in 19... George Murphy, we were all a group of us at the old Trocadero.
Right.
And we were all sitting around a table, and George Murphy went around giving everybody that was there a nickname. A nickname that didn't suit them particularly.
Right, right.
And when he got to me, he said, your name is Butch, and everybody laughed, and they kept calling me Butch, and it suddenly became a name. I've been Butch ever since.
Captain in the Castile.
Yeah.
One of my...
Captain Butch from Castile.
Oh, one of my favorite movies. Oh, Tyrone Power.
Yeah.
And Howard Hughes' ex-wife. Yes, isn't she?
Yeah, Jean Peters.
Jean Peters.
It was her first picture.
It was her first picture?
Yeah.
That's my favorite movie of yours.
Well, it's
one of
my favorites.
It
yeah.
is?
It was a lovely picture. We had a lovely location in Mexico for about 3 or 4 months. It was real pleasant. We did practically the whole picture down there.
Did you really? You were under contract with 20th, weren't you?
Oh, for years.
Betty
But I
Grable?
worked for Zanuck before it was 20th Century Fox, when he made his pictures just called 20th Century.
I see.
And he made his pictures at the old Samuel Goldwyn lot, the United Artists lot. And I did Clive of India with Ronald Colman, Loretta Young, and then I played opposite Maureen O'Sullivan in Cardinal Richelieu with George Arliss playing the Cardinal.
Oh, wonderful.
And then I did Metropolitan there with Lawrence Tibbett. Then he went over to Fox, and I did the first picture that he did on the Fox lot, which is a picture called Show Them No Mercy. One of my favorite pictures, as a matter of fact.
When did you first come to Hollywood, Cesar?
In 1934.
34, my lord. When did it all begin with you, though? I mean, you're in 34, but how were you discovered, really?
Discovered?
Yeah, really discovered. Because you've always been a star all my life. I can remember. You've always been a grand...
I started in show business in New York back in 1926, but
What were you, theater?
No, I was a dancer.
Vaudeville?
Well, I worked in vaudeville and a couple of musical shows. My partner and I worked in nightclubs, supper clubs. See, in those days, there were great supper clubs, not only in New York, but all over the country.
Right.
And sort of the main entertainment in these supper clubs was always a beautiful dance team that came out.
Right.
And there were some great dance teams in those days that were big names, big star names.
Tony DeMarco and Sally, right?
That's right.
Right, of course.
And Velos and Yolanda followed my partner and me on the St. Regis roof in 1928.
What was the name of the act?
On the St. Regis roof?
Yeah.
Romeo and Florence.
Romeo. I love it.
But I started with a girl by the name of Elizabeth Higgins, so we were known as Lisbeth and Romero, aristocrats of the dance.
How do you keep so young? You look so wonderful.
Because I am young.
You think
Sure.
young. Is that the secret? You think
No,
young.
I just had my 78th birthday.
78th birthday.
Sure.
God bless you, Cesar.
Sure, 2 more years, I'm 80. Hey, boy.
Tell me about Tyrone Power.
Tyrone, well, Tyrone was a very dear friend of mine. We were neighbors for years, you know, and I had one of the greatest experiences of my life with that man.
Yes.
At the end of the war, we both got out of the service at the same time. Ty had been a flyer in the Marine Corps. I was on a ship in the Pacific. I was in the Coast Guard. And we got out of the service at the same time. We reported back to the studio. And the studio gave us this trip, you know.
Right.
They supplied us with a little twin-engine Beechcraft, and Tyrone did all the flying. We flew down through Mexico. We hit every country in Central America, and we circled all of South America. Went down the western coast to Santiago, Chile, through the pass to Buenos Aires, up over Brazil, the Guianas, the West Indies to Havana, Miami, New York, California.
Right.
10 weeks we're on this trip. Wonderful time. You know, this is something you do once in a lifetime.
Yes, yes.
We
so
met
you
a lot
really knew him,
We met.
you?
We were very close friends.
Yes.
And we met some wonderful people on the trip. The first person we had to meet in whatever capital city we went to was the American ambassador.
Yes.
And he, 9 out of 10 times, would introduce us to the president of the country in some form or other.
Yes, yes.
And he introduced us to Perón and Evita, and we had lunch with them.
Did you really?
At the palace in Buenos Aires, and they were a very interesting couple, by the way, because she was a fantastic lady.
Like what, Cesar?
Well, she couldn't speak English, neither did he. So I sort of interpreted everything to Tyrone, and she had a great sense of humor, She was a most attractive lady, and never stopped talking. She yacked all the time. He was very quiet. He never said too much. But she sat there and she said to me, she said, why do the people in your country call my husband a dictator? He's not a dictator. He's a patriot. Isn't that right, Juan? You're not a dictator. You're a patriot. Okay, see. She was great fun. She was charming. She was a lovely hostess. Aside from, you know, her politics, that has nothing to do with it. But as a person, she was very charming.
I'd like you to meet one of the world's greatest illusionists, Mr. Jim Bailey. Hello, Jim. How are you?
Hi, Skippy.
How've you been?
Oh,
my little doggy.
Oh,
my little dog. Here you are. Come right over here, Jim.
Sweetheart. Here, darling, here. Take your little dog.
How are you, Jim?
She's trying to get away.
Well, how have you been? What have you been doing with yourself?
Well,
what's wrong? What happened? Oh, did she really?
I think
Anastasia, what did you do? I'm sorry, Jim. Why don't you... here, can we get a towel here, please? I'm sorry, Jim. Sit over here, please. Are you all wet?
She must have gone over here, too. I know. Shelley Winters was your last guest.
Who was?
Shelley Winters.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What have you been doing to yourself? Is it really...
It's a little wet.
Now, Casablanca, you're saying something. We had bases in Casablanca at the time?
Sure, don't you remember? That was the big... wasn't that the big conference? With they stayed at the Alpha. What was the name of the hotel in Casablanca?
I don't remember, but I didn't know we had bases. I know we have bases all over the world, but Casablanca, I didn't know we had bases at that time.
Oh, yes.
We did, huh?
Yes.
I see.
We sure did. That was the first time we worked for 35,000 men.
35,000. You seem happy today.
I'm doing just what I want to do now. That's it.
I see.
I have no aspirations for anything else.
Universal. Who is your favorite producer at Universal? Director? As a director, who is your
I hope
one of your
they're all
favorite?
listening. None.
None?
Ooh, none.
You had no favorite?
No.
I see.
As a matter of fact, I can honestly say because I'm not looking for anything.
Right.
I hated the studio. I hated working there.
I love Universal. It's number one, my favorite. I love it.
He wants to get work.
My
I'll tell you what.
also.
I'll give you Universal.
You heard it?
Don't come to me with your troubles, though.
Universal is tough, huh?
Well, at least in those days, and I hear it's still the same. They were cheap and it was terrible. They were.
That's not what I heard.
Do you know one thing they would do to us?
What, Jeremy?
When our picture started making money for them.
Yes.
They decided that we weren't going to have any wardrobe made.
Right.
Special for the three girls. So they would take us up to the extras department and pick out 3 lights.
Yes,
And had them fit for the 3 of us. We never got any special wardrobe.
I bring my own dress. I come prepared.
I mean, that's where, you know, they would do things like that. It was awful. It was really very difficult working there.
At Universal.
And I found a small clause in our contract. We had a 7-year contract, and I found a small clause, and we were to do 17 pictures or 7 years. And my sisters and I just had it up to here.
I see.
So, in going through I saw that after we were on our four and a half years.
Yes.
And it said, I found that little clause that I didn't know. We were already doing our 17th picture.
Oh, my.
So I just went in with our manager and announced that to Mr. Kelly that we were through. We were.
How many pictures did you do, dear, altogether, the Andrews sisters?
Oh, about 22, I think, something like that.
Nice.
Most of them were at Universal.
They weren't. They were 22. But
Can I get those remaining 2.5 years on that contract?
Yes, you can.
Can we find a new clause?
Maxine, tell me, Maxine Andrews, are you writing a book right now?
I have. Yes.
Already?
Yes.
It's out now?
No.
It's good.
No.
It's all finished?
No. Yes, almost finished.
Almost. You are
Yes.
writing. I
Yes.
see. I see. Is it a hot book?
See.
Tell me.
Is it a hot book?
Is it?
No.
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 Is it real?
We didn't live hot lives.
The Andrews sisters did. No, I don't mean it that way. I meant, is it gossipy of Hollywood or?
No.
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 Okay.
No, because we didn't. Well, actually, we didn't live that way. I've told you that our mother and father always traveled with us.
I see.
And when we performed, we were the Andrews sisters, and when we went home, we were just the kids.
Just ordinary. Yes.
You know,
yes,
so
yes.
sort of, it kept our feet on the ground.
Yes.
And
I see.
But we didn't mix much with the Hollywood crowd.
Bruce?
What? I'm writing a book.
About Australia?
What is it called?
No, it's called Who Cares?
Who Cares? True. About Hollywood.
No, about just who cares in general. No,
I see.
okay. What?
Tell me something.
I'll tell you whatever you want.
Where will you be working now, next? Where will you be coming to work? Are you
What am I, a
preparing?
psychic? I'm supposed to figure this out?
You don't know yet?
I play a lot in town, if you're living in Los Angeles, at Carlos and Charlie's. Also in New York. When I go to New York about 4 or 5 times a year.
You do?
I play at Dangerfield, so
Oh,
that's
that's
like
right.
my
That's a
favorite
great
club
place.
in New York. And here I play your place, La Mondrian Hotel, Sundays and Mondays. And Carlos and Charlie's, and whoever allows me on
So
this
you're
stage.
really working, that's great.
Yeah, I work every night at least, once a night.
A
yeah.
comic, a young comic like yourself should get out there
Got to.
Keep working, right?
Yeah, see, that's why I'm also an actor, and I have friends who are actors, but they're not comics, and I feel bad for them because the only thing they can do to keep working is go practice in classes, which is okay, but when you're on stage every night, and you know your room can be very difficult sometimes, it's always a learning experience, you know, to go out there and wake them up and stuff like that. So.
That's true, isn't it? You were in that club, you saw it. Yes, the working clubs is kind of a learning experience out there.
Absolutely. And I think Mama loves Mama loves Mama Llama too. Mama Llama
But as a singer, as yourself,
Llama had a little baby llama and the zoo. Now the llamas come from Lima, and the zoo is where they went. They were looking for Peru, but they're happy in the zoo, because the llamas had a blessed evening. Mama Llama loves Papa Llama, and Papa Llama loves
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Skippy Lowe Looks at Hollywood. Tonight's guests are the legendary film star Janet Leigh and television and motion picture director Curtis Harrington. Now, with no further ado, here's the man of the half hour, Skippy Lowe.
Looking back over your life, do you have any regrets?
No. And I don't mean to imply that there weren't, let's say, not always happy moments in my life, but to regret that is really kind of denying the experience. I think if something happens in your life that is, let's say, a challenge or an unpleasantness, a tragedy, a sadness, that then rather than sit and, you know, sort of wail about it, I think that the thing to do is to learn by it.
I
So to say that, you know, that you have any regrets, I mean, there are things that you'd like to say. I wish I'd been able to talk to my daddy before he died, but you know, it's not going to bring him back for me to wish for that. So let's try to make things positive and go forward.
I see. Norma Shearer.
Yes.
She had a ski lodge, Norma Shearer. Tell me about that.
She didn't have it. She was a regular visitor because her husband, Marty Arroget, was a ski instructor at one time when they were married, first married.
Yes.
And then they used to spend a month at Sugar Bowl Ski Lodge, the month of February, where my mom and dad were working.
Working, yes.
And that was where she saw my picture.
I see. Romance of Rosie Ridge.
Yes.
Was that your first film?
Certainly. 2 weeks after I was put into contract.
At MGM.
At MGM.
And Van Johnson?
Yes.
Tell me about
my
that.
wonderful van.
Wonderful van. Tell me about his red socks, first of all. Let's get
He
that.
always wears them.
Really?
It's true. I remember reading before I ever went to Hollywood, and I was I used to devour all of the movie magazines, and I had read about his red socks, and after I was signed, and then, I had tested for the part, and I got the part of Lissy Ann in Romance of Rosie Ridge, and when I first met him, I was so in awe to meet him, and then I just couldn't help myself. I mean, I just had to kind of look down and see, oh my God, they really are. They're there. Yeah.
Dan Johnson, and that was your second picture, Winter.
If Winter Comes.
If Winter Comes.
Walter Pidgeon, Deborah Carr.
Deborah Carr. Good God.
Yes.
Tell me about it. The first time you met Deborah Carr. How did you? And Walter Pidgeon.
Well, I mean, they just were both such beautiful and big and wonderful stars. I played a little English waif, kind of.
Now, where did you get the accent? I mean, you're from Stockton,
I'm
California.
from Stockton, California, exactly. And that's the wonderful thing that MGM and the studios had at that time, was that all of these facilities were there for you to learn from. And they had a diction coach, they had a drama coach, they had singing, they had dancing.
Yeah, they groomed stars. They really,
absolutely took, they nurtured you, they guided you, and they
even made your dates.
No,
not
with me. I don't know about.
Didn't they tell you who to go out with?
No.
No.
I do know. Well, let me just finish here. Anyway, what they did was they had Sir Aubrey Smith's niece was the one who tutored me with an English accent. But I do know that at times, like, I know that I double dated with Elizabeth Taylor a couple of times for either an opening or the Hollywood, remember the Hollywood Foreign Press Ball, the costume ball?
Of course.
Well, and that date was arranged for, if she didn't have one, say, the studio would
arrange one for
would arrange one, but she was younger, so it had to be a very careful thing,
Yes.
But no, I never had a date arranged.
Janet Leigh, one of my favorite movies. I love this movie. Even Words and Music.
Oh, yeah.
Judy Garland, Mickey Rooney.
You name it.
Tell me.
June Allison, Lena Horne.
Yes.
I mean, they were all there.
And that was a great musical. MGM came out with some great musicals, but that was my favorite of all.
The awful thing was that I had always just loved musicals, and a frustrated gypsy, I guess, But I hadn't done an MGM musical. I wasn't hired as a dancer or a singer or anything.
But you did a lot of musicals.
Later, yes.
Yes, you did.
But this was an MGM musical. It's my fourth picture, and I'm in an MGM musical, but I don't sing or dance.
But you were lovely, darling.
Yeah.
Tell me about Judy Garland. And Tom Drake, which you had a crush on. Tell me about that.
Tom Drake, I had seen.
You had a crush on him, didn't you?
Yes, I did. He in Green Years, and he had just done so many, and I loved that. He always had a breath when he spoke. There was a breathy quality, and he always kind of, and I just had the biggest crush. And then so I did two pictures back to back. I did the Lassie picture, which was my third picture, Hills of Home, with Tom Drake. And Words and Music, where he played Richard Rogers and I played Mrs. Rogers.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Mickey Rooney.
Mickey Rooney.
Tell me. You said working with Mickey Rooney is like what?
Well, I don't remember the exact word I used in the book, but it just like an
explosion.
A bomb waiting to go off.
I
mean, he just was such a dynamo, and to see he and Judy do Johnny One Note, and that was.
Tell me about Judy Garland.
The first time I
met her.
Well, the first time I met her was on the set of Words and Music, and I remember the day we had been shooting, but this was the day that she was going to come on and do the scene at the party, and then they would do their number.
Yes, the one note.
And I was so excited. I got up. I mean, I was 2 hours early on the set, you know, because I just wanted to be there. I didn't want to miss anything. I didn't want to miss her coming in. I didn't want to miss anything she did. And we waited and we waited, and I noticed Nikki, who, as I said, was like this, you know, was very patient and just very calm. And they all knew what I didn't know, which was that it was during one of her bad times, and you know, she was not well, and she came on finally about 12 o'clock, and wan and nervous, and my heart just went out to her. I just wanted to. I wanted to hold her, and you know, me. I mean, this was my 4th picture, and I wanted to hold her. But I just wanted to comfort her. You know, I wanted to say, "It's okay, honey. It's okay. It's going to be all right." She just broke my heart. But boy, then she started to, whatever she started to do, boom! It was, you know, unbelievable.
But you became friends with her.
Yes,
after.
Yes, indeed.
I treasure that. What was Judy Garland really like? Really?
She was really great.
Was she?
Yeah, she was as warm and as wonderful. I mean, you know, she had her moments where she was maybe lost to us.
She felt like a little girl, didn't she?
I think so. I don't think she ever had a chance to be a little girl. And I think probably I think the love that she missed in her in her life as a child was given to her by the audience, because she said so often that the time when she's on stage, she felt loved, and she felt it was like the people in the audience were giving her the love that she had craved when she was little.
You seem happy today, Janet.
I am very happy.
You are?
I'm a very fortunate lady.
Yes, you are. You keep saying that in your book. You said you are very, very, you know, you were unlucky with love, but lucky in work. What do you mean by that?
Well, I'm not necessarily unlucky. Let's just say that my choices weren't always the best. Except even that is because the choices you make at a time in your life are right at that time. And depending on how it goes after that is whether it, you know, continues. But you want to talk about luck? I mean, the fact that I was discovered. The fact that at the time I was discovered, because 6 months later, the picture that I first did would have been made, and they were not hiring at that. Then they had stopped hiring people to see if they could make a test, or to, you know, in other words, just stock players.
Did Janet Leigh make a test?
Excuse me?
Did you do a screen test?
Not for the contract.
You didn't?
No. No, I was signed. I went in. They brought me in to meet Lucille Ryman, who was the talent head, and I met with her, signed a contract. They signed me to a contract.
That's it.
The test came when when I went to the drama coach, and she gave me the scene, and I read for her, and she had the director and producer of Romance of Rosie Ridge come down. Then they decided to do the test then, because actually the contract was, even though it was for 7 years, was to really make a test.
Yes,
I mean,
yes, of course.
You know, to train me for 3 months or 6 months, make a test and see if anything came up.
Little Women. Tell me, there's another great picture. Little Women, Elizabeth Taylor, Margaret O'Brien.
June Allison.
June Allison.
Yeah. That was fun. And Peter Lawford, Sir Aubrey Smith. I mean, Mary Astor, great cast.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
That was a great
Rosanna
movie.
Brazzi.
Was
his first picture.
Yes.
Over here.
Christian Science. Tell me.
Christian Science, I started when I was married before Tony. I was married when I arrived in Hollywood.
You were a Christian Science then?
I had studied it with this man's mother.
Yes.
And I really liked the idea of the science of mind.
Positive, yes,
positive.
I do too.
I didn't actually join the church because I didn't know that I would be capable of meeting all of their requirements. I didn't know that I had progressed that far. But subsequently have read, continued with Christian Science reading, and also like Science of Mind and Unity. Because religion really is
peaceful.
It's within ourselves.
Within yourself, yeah. RKO, Howard Hughes. Tell me, I had Terry Moore on my show. I interviewed Terry Moore about Howard Hughes. She told me some wonderful stories about Howard Hughes. But tell me, Janet Leigh, Howard Hughes, and your mother, your father, took out to dinner, in that Chevy of his. Tell me about that. How did you meet Howard Hughes? What happened?
I met Hughes at a cast party for Little Women at Mervyn LeRoy's house. And Mervyn introduced Howard Hughes to me and my date, Barry Nelson, wonderful actor. And that was it. I obviously had heard of the legendary Howard Hughes.
Right.
But he didn't interest me at all.
But he didn't want to take you to bed. Was that the idea, Howard Hughes?
I don't know what he wanted, but he sure wanted something that I wasn't prepared to give.
Yes.
I don't want to... All I know is that when if you and I had a date, right?
Yes.
And we went out to dinner.
Yes.
Suddenly there would be a third place there, and Howard Hughes would show up.
I see.
And all of a sudden I'm doing 3 loan outs at RKO. All of a sudden I go on a date with a gentleman, and we're supposed to go sailing, and we end up on his plane in Grand Canyon.
I see.
And then Las Vegas, and I thought the nightmare would never end. He drove me crazy. And finally, at one time, I said, "For God's sakes, why do you manipulate that?" I hated that.
Yes.
I said, if you want to ask me out like a man. Don't sit there and arrange like, And he said, "All right, will you go out with me?" And I said, "No." And then I felt badly, because it wasn't that he was bad. He didn't do anything bad. He just made me nervous. And so then I relented, and I said, "Okay, you can take me out if my mother and father go along." I thought, sure, that would kill it. And he did.
He did. And he took you to the
That's the only time I ever went out?
He took you to the Sportsman's Lodge.
Sportsman's Lodge.
In the valley.
With my mom and dad.
And his Chevy?
In his Chevy.
I think that's funny.
And that was the only time that I actually went out with him. The other times were all just arranged.
What kind of man was Howard Hughes? How did you...
Insecure. I think afraid that maybe he wouldn't be loved for him, that he would, he would be loved because he was a very rich man. I think, also, I think he's a very driven man in what he wanted to accomplish.
Yes.
I think he was a very courageous man, not only in his flying achievements, but, in his I think, courageous standing up to the to the Congress, and I mean, he a very careful man in terms of thoughtful, in terms of if you're working for him,
Yes.
And one who wanted to possess. I think maybe to possess was even almost more than the actual reality of the possession,
really
if you know what I mean.
Yes, I do. Yeah. Tell me something about Tony Curtis. Tony Curtis, now when did he get into your life? Now.
I met Tony when I was doing Jet Pilot. I met him at Lucy's. Remember Lucy's?
Was that when you met him? Yeah, of course. You met him on Jet Pilot. Is that when you met him? I see.
I was shooting Jet Pilot. I went to a cocktail party at Lucy's, which was across from RKO. And
on Melrose.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I met him then, and he called a while later and asked me out, and we started to go together.
And that's where it all happened.
That's where it all happened.
Furlough, perfect furlough. How many pictures did you do with Tony?
With Tony?
Yes.
6, I think.
You did 6 pictures with Tony Curtis.
Yeah, we had.
You enjoyed working together?
Yeah,
yeah.
It was good working. I think there are
Wasn't
things,
it difficult to work hake and wife to work?
Not really. I think that you can bring things to a character
I see.
that certainly I could do with my husband that I couldn't
Yes.
do with someone I didn't
see.
know. I mean, you know, there were certain elements you could bring to a character and the chemistry between the two that you could have that wouldn't be quite as free if you weren't married. No, we worked well together. He also liked having his leading lady clean his dressing room.
Oh, I see. Psycho.
Yes.
You know, you were nominated for the Academy Award for Psycho.
Yes.
There were wonderful pictures. That year. There were a lot of pictures there. And where were you at the time when you were nominated?
When I heard about it?
When you heard about it, yeah.
I know exactly. I was in Palm Springs, and I knew that the nominations were going to be announced that morning.
Yes.
And I was alone in the house with the two girls. Both, they were toddlers, and they were taking their nap. And the phone rang, and you know, and I ran for two reasons. One, wondering if that was the call, and two, didn't want it to ring again because the girls were sleeping. And I heard that I had been nominated. Yeah.
How Hitchcock, one of the great directors. I mean, God.
I mean, again,
tell me
I
about
use that word, lucky lady.
Lucky lady.
Oh,
Yes.
look at the people. Look at the directors I've worked with.
You are lucky.
Yeah.
You really are.
You bet I am.
I mean, Hitchcock, you know, that's a great director.
Yeah. And Orson Welles.
Orson Welles.
You know, and Joseph
A Touch of Evil?
Right.
Oh, God, what a great classic. That's a cult classic.
Yes. Well,
Matter of fact, you know,
I'm going to do this. Speaking of great directors,
you know that you
we're
are
right here, but now,
from Dynasty.
now there's one thing.
Voila.
Now,
From
see,
Dynasty,
I knew I'd figure it out.
From Dynasty.
How's that?
Wonderful.
From Dynasty, also the Cobies, and a wonderful motion picture, The Games. Remember that wonderful film? Curtis Harrington, how are you?
Very well.
Thank you for
Very
coming.
well.
This is lovely, Janet Leigh.
Yes.
Curtis.
Great pleasure to
Talking
meet
about
you.
great directors. I mean, Hitchcock.
She has worked with, I told her before the show, three of my favorite directors, Joseph von Sternberg, Orson Welles, and Alfred Hitchcock. I mean, you can't get any better than that.
That's right.
And how many actresses have worked for all three of them?
That's true.
She's probably the only one.
That's what she says. She's
Pretty
very
lucky.
lucky. She is.
Lucky.
She really is lucky, isn't she? She
Yes.
she seems happy too. She's God. Curtis Harrington, you are doing right now Dynasty, parts of Dynasty, and also the Cobies with Robert
The Colbys,
Stanwyck.
yes, I've been doing that this last season, the Colbys. And I presumably will be doing some more this next season.
Tell me about Robert Stanwyck. Working with
Oh,
him. Good
well,
God.
I'm such a film buff, so for me, the pleasure
real
of
pro,
working with this legendary woman, you know, who proved to be every bit as wonderful and enchanting as she is on the screen. And she is the consummate pro.
She is, isn't she?
Absolutely.
What do you see as a director when you are from the artist? What do you see when they do a run through for you? Do they?
What do I see?
Well, I mean, would you let them do their? Do you let them on their own? Do you let them?
Well, yes. I always like to let. I always have a first rehearsal, where I may say, okay, you'll be seated there, and you'll be. You know, I sort of start them, and they're starting like starting a couple of horses, and then I let them go because I learn a lot then, then I shape it.
Then you shape it. That is.
But I never impose to begin with.
That's what Hitchcock did, didn't he? I think so. Didn't Hitchcock do that?
Well, he was more absolute in his movements.
I'm sure he was because
of
you know
his
he preconceived his movies.
Completely.
Everything was written on paper. He always said, I believe this is true, that the shooting of the movie was far less important to him than conceiving it.
It's less challenging.
Less challenging.
Because
Yes.
the challenging for him
Right,
was setting
right.
those shots on his models.
In advance,
Yeah.
yes. And I don't work that way. I mean, I have a very good idea in my head of how I want it to be, but I found a very interesting thing in terms of acting scenes, that if I have conceived my idea right, very often the actors do exactly what I imagine they would do. You know, it's very interesting to me. Like I'll imagine, oh, they're going to cross on this line, and suddenly they'll be doing it, and I won't have to say a word.
You know, he did a great film with Debbie Reynolds. One
Oh,
of the
big
great,
talent.
and he brought,
Yes.
but he brought her, never Debbie Reynolds on the screen like Curtis Harrington brought that out.
No,
Debbie
it
was wonderful, and Helen.
And What's the Matter with Helen?
What's the matter with Helen?
Debbie is a big talent.
She is, but tell me about that.
Well, it's interesting to me, and you must know Debbie very well from
Yes.
your days at MGM, that
Right.
Debbie has this, at least my perception of her is that she has this image of herself as a comedian and a clown, and that she's very apologetic when it comes to dramatic acting, and yet she's such an incredible talent that, in my opinion, she's much better than she seems to think she is.
She is, yes.
You know,
yes.
because she always seemed a little insecure. This was a really dramatic role that she played in my
It's
film.
almost that it's not hiding, but it's almost kind of taking the safe way that she knows she is good at
Yes.
and brilliant
Yes.
at,
Yes.
so that she
Yes.
feels comfortable with that instead
Yes.
of like leaping to experiment. Yeah.
And yet she's capable
Oh,
of
but she's
anything.
capable of anything.
Anything. She is a brilliant talent.
Absolutely.
And a joy on the set.
Is she really?
Oh, yeah. She.
Curtis, you have a plan. I just found out Curtis has got I hear about your new movie you're going to be doing.
A plan.
Madame
Oh,
Rubenstein.
that, yes.
Tell me
Well,
about that.
if, hopefully
Okay.
I'm going
Okay.
to do it. I've been developing a project to do the last years in the life of Helena Rubinstein, the famous,
Oh, yeah.
the cosmetics queen. There's another film, incidentally, that's been announced in Europe about her young years, but this has nothing to do with her young
I
years.
see.
This is a story based on the best-selling novel of a few years ago called Madame.
Madame.
That was
Yeah, I read
written
about
by her
Yes.
secretary. And it's a fascinating story.
Who do you want to do it, Curtis? That's all right.
Who do I want to do it?
Yeah, who would you like to see do it?
Well, I can't really say at the moment. That would be indiscreet.
Yes.
Because we don't have anyone set, and if the actress we're currently pursuing, if it didn't work out, it would not. You know, actresses like to at least be able to say, I was the first one chosen for that role.
You never.
Right?
I have never said I turned down this role or that role or this role or that role, unless it was years later, because it's just not a nice thing to do, because just for that reason.
Yes, psychologically, it's very important not to.
It's better
you
not
know.
to. Absolutely.
Janet Leigh now. What's happening with Janet Leigh now? You've been doing a lot of television, or-
I am so busy, I don't know where the time goes. I've been doing a lot of charities, and I have I've been doing a lot of research. I'm writing a novel. And
this is your first one.
That's the autobiography.
There really was a Hollywood.
Yes, and there really was.
There really was a Hollywood.
Yes, there was.
How about Hollywood today now?
There's a Hollywood today. It's different. It isn't the same. Not that you could expect it to be, because it's a different time.
Right.
But sometimes when you go to the new, there's a tendency to negate what was. And that is what I am saying, that there really was. I wanted to substantiate and to reaffirm, to tell everyone out there who said, well, gee, I always thought there was. I wanted to say, yeah, there really was, guys.
It was in
about
the
you?
days of the great major studio system, and all that, like she spoke of earlier, the training, you know, that they gave them.
Continuity.
And
That's-
the continuity,
yeah,
and that
real
they were
important
put into one picture after another.
And
It
I'm
was
sitting
such a-
here right now with an American from California, Southern California. You're from Stockton, and
And I
Curtis
was born in
Harrington,
Los Angeles.
and was born in Los Angeles.
We are,
Two
very few of us
I know.
natives.
I know, they always say
Two
that.
very successful people. Tell me, Curtis, how did you get into directing? I mean, where did you all come-
Originally?
Originally from.
Oh, well, actually, I got in the way some of my fellow directors have done in recent years, like Steve Spielberg. I just went out and made my own movie. I wrote
That's
a
it?
script, and I raised the money, and I made it.
I see.
You have to prove your talent some way.
Yes.
And no one was going to give me a job as a director since I'd never directed, so
I see.
I took the bull by the horns, as it were, and I
Very good.
made my first film, Night Tide, with Dennis Hopper.
That was your first.
Yes, that was my first, and I raised the money for that.
And how about
And without distribution at that time?
Well,
and then you
actually,
brought
no,
it to
I
distribution?
did have help. I mean, I had help from a producer-director who has helped many young filmmakers over the last 20 years, Roger Corman.
Oh,
right,
sure,
of course,
yeah.
of course.
But it wasn't his, you know, he does it sometimes with his projects. He was dubious about the commercial prospects of my film, but he still helped me.
I see.
Helped me raise the money, you know.
Great.
He was the key.
Yes, yes.
And then I raised some from a builder, and oh, I went everywhere to get money.
About the games, what year was it?
Games
It was a
was
great movie.
filmed in 1968.
68.
And it was
Signor?
really Simone Signoret's
Signor.
only American feature. You know,
I
she
see.
did a television or two, but
Just before I close, I want to say Psycho. Tell me about it. How does it, you know, it's a cult film right now. It's big. It's forever and ever. Tell me, how do you feel about it? I mean, when you made it, did you think it was going to be that?
No one knows that when you're doing a picture, what's going to happen 25 years later. I think it's, you know, remarkable and flattering that to be a small part of that that really classic film, because I think it's good.
Hi, I'm Burt Lang, and I want to welcome you to Skippy Lowe Looks at Hollywood. Skip's guests tonight are the multi-talented Jackie Mason, star of a one-man show, and the Broadway and television star Faye DeWitt, currently starring Club Confidential. And now, without more ado, to the man of the half hour, Skippy Lowe.
How do you do?
Hey, Jackie Mason.
They named you right, Skippy Lowe. This is
Jackie.
very low to send anybody
Jackie.
to come to a building like this.
I really don't thank you for coming. But first of all,
You should. I usually don't wait for nothing.
Rabbi, tell me something. Cantor, Rabbi, tell me about that. First of all, getting into Jackie Mason's life.
Right. Why do you feel that for these prices I have to tell you my whole life?
I want to start it right from the beginning on Lower East Side in New York. Go ahead.
That's exactly where I started, on the Lower East Side of New
Grandfather.
York. I didn't know it would be as low as this, but it was on the Lower East Side of New York. And
Three
I tell you the
brothers.
truth, I was doing better then than I'm doing now in this building. At least at that time, they didn't start the show 4 times to find out if it's working.
Hey, Jackie.
I'm kidding you. I'm delighted to be here
Thank
because I've heard of so many celebrities and major stars of all parts of the world, and to be on the same show with Faye DeWitt to me is a very, very special honor. This is a very exceptionally, brilliantly talented lady, and I can't wait to hear what she's got to say for the same price that I'm working. Because obviously she's got no place to go either, otherwise who else would come?
Hey.
So you find people who in the daytime are walking the streets, hello mister, you want to do a show?
Yeah.
And the guy sits down.
Go ahead, Jackie.
I'm delighted to see you. I really am, because it's a pleasure to meet a guy in worse shape than me. Listen to this. I honestly love it here. I like to see old furniture, broken buildings. This one makes me feel like when I get out of here, I'm a success.
Hey.
No matter where I go from here, it's up. It's up. There's nothing as low as... No, but they named you right. Listen to this. But I really am delighted. You know, it's only a friend that I could kid this way. But you're no friend, but I'm taking a chance anyway. If I have friends like this, who needs enemies? It's the old story. You don't need to become successful to wind up here. But the point is your show is very well known throughout this town. I don't know if they watch it, but they know about it. This way they know how to change the station, not to have to see it. But the point is, I personally... I heard a lot about you and this show when I came into town a couple
It's in
of
New
weeks
York,
ago.
too.
And,
I'm in New York.
And I know you're in New York, and I know you're in a lot of cities. And I know that people are moving all around the country trying to figure out which city you're not in so they could get away from the show for half an hour. But the point is, I wouldn't be here if I wasn't delighted to. But I want to answer your question seriously when you talked about the Lower East Side.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly where I do come from, the Lower East Side of New York. And it's amazing, it's very interesting that a great percentage of the comedians who became the major stars of this industry up to about 10, 15 years ago. All the stars that came into this business and made it in this business, anytime from 40 years ago to 15 years ago, practically all came from the Lower East Side of New York, if they were Jewish. And very few Gentiles ever became comedians, so you could say they were all comedians came from the Lower East Side of New York.
But rabbis,
Because
very few became rabbis.
You know?
I became a rabbi because I had no choice in the matter. You see,
Brothers, 3 brothers?
I have 3 older brothers.
Grandfather?
My grandfather, father, always back to many, many generations.
They were all rabbis?
They were always rabbis. Even the women in my family almost became rabbis.
Really?
In my family had no right to live if you wasn't a rabbi, because from the day you were born, you were told you're going to be a rabbi. The dog, a cat, a chair, whoever showed up, you're going to be a rabbi. That's all they knew in my family. And I talk about this in my act. I don't know if you heard it.
Yes, I want to know. You are a...
I talk about the fact that and it's actually a true story. When I tell in my act, excuse me, for these prices, it's hard to talk.
Hey, here's some water.
When I started out in the business and I became a rabbi originally, I became a rabbi to please my father, because I didn't have the heart to hurt him by not becoming a rabbi, since this was his dream that all 4 of his sons would be rabbis, and I was the 4th son, and he was waiting.
Yes.
And it's hard to look at a man sitting, staring you in the face, waiting for you to become a rabbi, and telling him, I'd rather do a Skippy Lowe show.
Hey.
So because of that fact, I became a rabbi, for no other reason than to please my father. But I started to feel a great conflict and torment about it. It sounds like a joke, but it was no joke to me at the time. It was a tormentful episode in my life, trying to please my father and trying to live the life of a rabbi, while I myself didn't have the conviction to really do it with any sincerity, because I'm telling people not to chase women because these are pleasures of the flesh, and then a beautiful blonde would walk by while I'm talking and I would lose my place. And I would say, this is not for you, but for me, by God.
Were you funny when on doing your services? Now tell me, Jackie. They used to come. People used to come. They weren't even Jewish. They used to come to the temple.
Right. Gentiles came in droves. I started to charge a cover and a minimum in the temple. And there was more Gentiles than Jews there. There was no room for the Jews after a while.
That's what I was told.
Story.
It is
I
true.
became the rabbi of the only Gentile congregation in America.
When did you decide to become a comic, though?
Well, when I went to the mountains, to the Catskills, to just free myself from the responsibilities of a rabbi, I decided to see if I could become a social director in the mountains. A social director in the mountains.
I was
in
one.
the Catskills, I'm sure you know.
Yeah.
I'm sure you know, but maybe your audience is not exactly familiar, so I'm taking the trouble to explain it to them, because not everybody is in the same condition that you're in.
Good.
So I went to the Catskills to become a social director, which is the kind of a guy who entertains the 200-300 people who are the guests of the hotel. So he invents ways to entertain them every night by creating an activity. They have a game night, they have a guest night, an amateur night, this kind of a night, different kinds of shows and gimmicks to entertain the people by creating some kind of activities.
What hotel was that, Jack?
I must have been a social director in 15 hotels. 15? Because I got thrown out of each one. Each time I came for the season, and they signed me for the season, and a day later they said, this is a social director. How did he get in here? Because the social director in the smaller hotels also has to be an athletic director. They combine it all in one, and I can't do any athletics. If I have to move, I have to get paid extra. Because I don't move for nothing. 4 o'clock in the morning maybe, but in the afternoon, forget about it. So because it was my job to tell the people to play handball, basketball, baseball, organize teams to play basketball. Now most of the guests are 60, 70-year-old elderly people who are sitting on a chair and thank God they're living. And they thank God nobody's bothering them. So they're sitting there quietly, and it's my job to start a basketball game. They're begging me to leave them alone, and the boss is begging me to start a basketball game. And there was a great conflict between the guests and the boss. If the boss doesn't see a basketball game, he wants to throw me out. If the guests see me bothering them, they want to throw me out. So there was no place to go.
But when did Jackie Mason become a stand-up comedian? What was that? When was that?
I came here to the Slate Brothers. After the
Here in
Catskill
Los
Mountains.
Angeles, on La Cienega.
On La Cienega Boulevard. Don Rickles had become a sensation in the Slate Brothers, and I followed him into the Slate Brothers.
You mean that was your first engagement?
That was my first engagement talking to Gentiles.
You're kidding, Jackie.
I never spoke to a Gentile before that. And the
now
Jews,
that's in the, what, late 50s?
That's about 1960.
50? 60? Early 60s? Okay. I remember that. Yes, I
Just
remember.
about 1960.
I
came into the Slate Brothers, and they didn't want to sign me because they heard I was too Jewish to talk to Gentiles. And they thought Gentiles wouldn't understand me, and they wouldn't appreciate my kind of accent, my kind of humor. And exactly the opposite was true. While the Jews were telling me I'm too Jewish, because the Jews have a persecution complex about anything Jewish.
Yes, yes, yes.
That's why to this day, Jewish people who own production companies and produce television shows are afraid of me or my voice because they think I'm too Jewish for the Gentiles. They'll put on a show starring Japanese because they think Japanese people are perfect for Gentiles. They'll put on Puerto Ricans, they'll put on any kind of an ethnic minority, Mexicans, they'll put on anybody. Black people makes them feel like civil rights crusaders. Look, I'm showing you a black person. But if you're showing them a Jew, then all of a sudden I look too Jewish.
Yes, yes.
So the Jews are embarrassed by anything Jewish, so they hide from me. So the Gentiles are laughing and the Jews are running for cover.
Jackie Mason, tell me something. When you think funny, you write your own material?
Yes,
I mean, you
I
do all
always
your
write my
own?
material.
Your own.
I never had a writer in my life.
You live truth. You speak the truth. That's
I
what's
try
funny,
to see
isn't it?
what's funny about life, the hypocrisy in life, the sham, the fraud, the chicanery. People like you,
Yeah.
I watch them. I watch people who tell you, come to a television show exactly 1 o'clock, 1:30 you're drinking coffee, 1:45 you're trying to get started, 2 o'clock you're looking for the studio, you're not sure.
Jackie Mason, Mayor of New York. Tell me about that. You were going to run for Mayor of New York.
Right, I was going to run for mayor.
Really?
This is a couple of years ago.
Why were you going to run for mayor?
Because I love political life and I enjoy politics all my life. I like to watch political races. I've always been involved in politics, like as a hobby.
Yes.
Never in any professional sense. But I love the race of politics, the ego involved in it, the competitiveness, the whole game and the fraud that most politicians are while they're preparing and planning to help the public. They're only thinking of, do I look better this side or that side? While they're planning to be concerned about black people, they wonder where the votes are. If the votes are with the Jews, I'm Jewish. The black people, I'll take a chance being black. Then I'm a black Jew, half Puerto Rican. They don't know what to be.
Yes, yes.
And I said to myself, they desperately need one sincere person, one honest man to really run New York. New York is now involved in huge political scandals under Mayor Koch. And Mayor Koch, who was supposedly the bastion of decency and democracy, and it turned out to be a guy who has watched all the fraud going on and enjoyed it, and all the thievery, and he enjoyed it, and now he's in a lot of trouble. And I felt this is the perfect time for me to run for office. Then all of a sudden something happened. I was offered a picture deal. A group of Jews got together, raised $3 million, and said, here, make a picture. Then I started to think, here I'm making a
You're going
definite
to produce
picture.
your own picture? Or
Right, I produced it.
You
already.
produce? Yeah.
Right, I
What
produced
is
a
the-
couple of movies this
I
year.
know you did, yes. Which one you have?
The movie I just produced is called Stiffs.
I see.
It's
That's with Walker, Jimmy Walker?
with Jimmy Walker and Alex Rucker. And we play three brothers who own a funeral parlor. A black, an Italian, and a Jew. And at the end of a picture, a Chinaman comes in. We find out he's the fourth brother. Because the mother got married twice, once to an Italian and once to a Jew. And we inherit her funeral parlor. And as me and the Italian fella, who are brothers, are running the funeral home, of the picture, J.J. Walker comes in and announces that he's the third brother. Because the mother also had an affair with a black musician before she got married. And he turns out to be the third brother. Now the three of us are running the funeral parlor, and just as we're about to do good, the Chinaman comes in and says, hello. So it becomes four brothers running the funeral parlor. It's one of the most brilliantly hilarious pictures ever made. I'm telling you this because nobody saw it yet, and you can't say I'm wrong.
Jackie Mason, I'm going to talk about Ed Sullivan days. I mean, that's a long time ago. But let's make it clear for the people out there.
Why not?
Ed Sullivan, tell me about
I'm sure people got
Tell
nothing to
me
do. Let them-
about the Ed Sullivan. What happened that day?
What happened was he gave me 2 fingers to tell me I have 2 minutes left. But he did the two fingers right in front of the camera.
Right.
And all of a sudden, the whole audience at home was watching his 2 fingers instead of my act.
Yeah.
Because it's not nice to say something bad about a man who passed away, and God rest his soul, he was a great man, but he wasn't too intelligent. And that's not nice to say either, but it's true. He was standing in front of a guy making fingers, so I figured, if everybody's going to get involved in his fingers, who's going to know that I'm such a hit?
Yes, yes.
Here I'm becoming a sensation, and just when I'm becoming a sensation, 2 fingers are coming and going. And you know what it is, if you're talking and somebody's moving around with fingers, you're not going to watch the guy talking, you're going to watch the fingers.
Yes.
If I'm standing here making the greatest speech of all time and somebody starts walking around here with a tray, you're going to watch the guy with the tray to see where he's going to go with that tray. Here I am, the most fascinating person that ever lived, and a tray takes over. And fingers could take over if the 2 fingers are moving while you're talking. Anything that moves, you watch the thing to see where's it go.
Right.
The hell with the speaker. Now, I was being destroyed. You only have 6 minutes.
Right.
If 3 minutes are ruined, you look like a guy who's in the wrong business. The next day, I could be driving a truck because of these 2 fingers that are walking around.
Yeah.
So I started to make fun of his fingers. I said, you got 2 fingers for me, I got a finger for you. And I didn't even mean any dirty
You didn't mean
gesture.
any gesture.
I
I
said, who
understand.
got fingers? You came to watch your fingers. If your fingers were such a hit,
Yes,
why
of
am I
course.
here? What are you showing people fingers? So I started to make fun of his fingers. He thought I meant this.
Yes, yes.
The fact is, and you'll find this hard to believe, I didn't even know what this meant at that time. Now I know. That's why I'm doing it for you. because you deserve it, because over here I'm working for nothing. But I don't want
do it, Jackie.
So I'm willing to take chances with you, because if I don't come back, I got nothing to lose.
Hey, you can do
But with him, if I don't come back, I'm losing 10,000.
Right, right.
Here, what am I losing? Gas money that I could have saved if I didn't show up? So when I decided that I'll take chances with you. What do you think
That's
happens?
right.
But I did this to him, and I didn't even know I did it. And right after the show, he called me the lowest best. He called me a lot worse names than what
Right
he
after
thought
the
I did.
show on the set?
Right.
Right on the set? Yeah, he was hollering.
Right after the show. Cursing, choking, and with full of venom and hate. I'm lucky that he wasn't such a healthy person, otherwise he would have killed me. He wanted to choke me, he didn't have the nerve, he kept wondering, is he going to choke me back? I better take the...
I mean, you hit the news the next day.
The next day, Vietnam was off the front pages. President Johnson was president at that time. He was off the front pages. I wiped out the whole world with one finger.
I know. True, true.
That's exactly
I
what
don't
happened.
mean to bring that back. I just want to clear that up,
I know you didn't mean to
Jackie.
bring it back.
Jackie.
Somebody else asked me.
Hey,
Who asked me that question?
Hey, Jackie.
He didn't mean to bring it back. He asked me, and he says to me he didn't mean to bring it back.
Jackie.
Then why did you ask me?
Jackie Mason.
I want to know, are you a hypocrite or
No,
not?
I'm just
Because if
asking
you're an
you.
honest person, why are you
Because
lying?
I wasn't in town. I was in
Oh,
Europe working. I was doing the American troops. I was entertaining with the Everly
with
Brothers.
the Everly?
Yeah, I was with the Everly Brothers entertaining. Now, let me explain to you.
God bless
They
you.
according...
Gee, I didn't know you were nice enough
Of
to do
course, I'm a nice man.
But you don't have such a great reputation, I'll be honest.
That's right. Tell me something. According to me, the wonderful show.
Yes.
You wrote everything in that show? That
It's all-
show
it's all
is
my own
just
stuff.
brilliant.
It's all
I
my own
went
stuff.
to see it the other night, and I laughed. I mean, Jackie Mason, you are the funniest man alive, and I'm very
Well,
sincere
God
when I
bless
say
you.
that.
I have
And-
to admit that Mel Cole, who's sitting here with me right now, who's a brilliant young comedy writer, he came up with a few brilliant ideas. I didn't ask him for that because I know he's got no talent, but he wrote some brilliant ideas that I incorporate in the show. It's not of any major significance. You can't make a living from his ideas, but they were brilliant. They were brilliant. I think he's going to be the most prominent comedy writer in the country
So he
in the
writes
next
some of
couple
your
of
stuff?
years. He wrote some of the jokes in it.
I love
not
what-
too many. Let's not
You know,
get
I
excited.
love what George Burns said.
But you know, Ron Clark.
Yes.
Ron Clark, the man who staged it. He thought of the idea of having that map in the back.
I love it. I think it's great.
He
Simple.
came up with some brilliant ideas of what to do first, second, and third. And I have to give him credit too. I don't like a person who doesn't give credit. Where
I love
credit
your
is due.
entrance, Jackie. The entrance is wonderful.
Right,
It's
right.
just wonderful.
But
You've had a lot of
I
people.
have
I
to
was sitting
admit that-
behind Robin Williams, and
Right.
Robin Williams was laughing, so we couldn't even hear the next line.
I know it was killing him that I'm such a hit.
You are. But you know something? There is also a wonderful show right now in town called Nightclub Confidential.
I know. I heard all about it.
And there's a marvelous
And
lady.
so many
I
people
haven't
are
seen
talking
her.
about
Yeah.
Faye DeWitt and this show.
Faye DeWitt.
Now this happens to be the truth.
I would
Every
love-
place I've gone to in this town, the most excitement that I've ever heard in my life about me. But besides this, they can't stop talking about Faye DeWitt. They can't understand how she has the nerve to be in the same town with a guy like me.
Faye DeWitt. Darling,
He kills
that
me.
nightclub.
Did you call me Faye DeWitt?
Faye DeWitt?
Faye DeWitt.
No, not bitch. I didn't say that, darling. Faye DeWitt. Nightclub Confidential. You've been in town how long with that?
It's been running for 6 months.
6 months.
Six big months at the Tiffany Theater.
And it's doing really.
Yeah, they're just, it's amazing. I mean, it's...
You know, I remember
we
those
got great
days.
reviews. I mean, I was just telling Jackie that I wrote a letter to the Times because I was so angry because I just think you just kill me. I mean, I'm sitting here, I'm listening to you just, in life, you're funny. I've seen you so many times and I'm such a big fan of yours. Anyway, at the Tiffany Theater is
God
Nightclub
bless you.
Confidential.
No, this is more important. Why should we talk about this?
Wait a minute. No, we got extraordinary reviews.
Reviews
I
are
mean,
wonderful.
the Times said it was the show that did everything
Liza
right.
Minnelli was there the night I was there.
Oh, Who was there?
Times Liza Minnelli with
Oh,
Michael
kidding.
Feinstein. She
No
came
kidding.
in
Well,
with Michael.
She got lost. She was on her way to my show. I remember.
At the
She
Las
came in town-
Palmas,
She came in town to see her daddy. He
Right.
was in a hospital, and I remember that.
Is he
day.
okay
She
now?
was
Is he
there.
okay?
He's okay.
Oh,
fine.
thank
yes,
God.
Vincent Minnelli is okay.
He's
God
a
bless
very
him.
sweet man.
Yes, he is, Jackie. And Faye DeWitt.
Yes.
I remember you at the Bonsoir.
Yeah.
The Pierre.
Yeah.
And
I'm not that old.
Hey, but in London, I do remember you.
Yeah, I used to play when I was a
What
kid.
does that mean? You're not that old. Does that mean you didn't play
I was there. No, it was a long time ago is what I mean. And I am that old.
No, if I'm not too personal, since
You
the
are
Bon-
too personal. What?
Since the Bonsoir days, since the Bonsoir days and those other, since when? Where have you been between there and here?
She's been doing a lot of television work. Yeah,
Have you done a lot of
She does a
television?
lot of commercials, a lot of appearances, Jackie.
Have
she
you
is,
done any plays on Broadway or anything?
Oh,
else?
Well, we did this one off Broadway. I was basically making my living doing commercials and
Commercials and radio.
I went to New York. It happened that I sort of was like bored out here, and my children had grown up, and I said it was like middle-age syndrome.
Right.
And so.
You mean you weren't working for a while at all?
No, I was doing commercials and some
commercials,
television, but the problem is that there's a lot of time in between.
No,
So I was home painting my house, doing the floor, weeding the garden. My
You
children
wasn't
said.
playing clubs of that type?
I don't play clubs. I don't like clubs so much. I
She's
mean,
a theater.
No, I played
You
clubs.
do.
I started
But chic,
doing that.
chic little rooms. You worked little
And I was never chic. That's the funny part. When I work, I'm chic. I mean, as a person, I'm like,
you're
great.
offbeat.
No, I'm trying to understand this seriously. If it
How
was,
seriously?
If it was good in the Bonsoir and those type of places, why didn't you continue that type of
Because I had
work?
children, and I decided that I didn't want to do clubs because, as you know, when you do clubs, you have to travel. So therefore, the last time I traveled, I think it was to the QE in Montreal. I had my baby and the kid in the stroller, the milk bottles out the window, and
You
doing my
didn't want
show.
to do clubs locally here?
First of all, I don't drink.
Jackie
Secondly,
Mason, there aren't
I like,
any
I like
clubs
to go
here.
to bed early.
Faye, would you explain to Jackie Mason?
There really are no places to
Well, there's a
work
place
here.
called the Gardenia.
That's about
And you send out cards, and people pay $5
To come in, cover.
to come and
Thank
see
you. It's a rip joint. It
It's
really,
not a rip joint. No, people need a place to play.
But it's not that, Faye. It is 2-drink minimum, $5 cover to come in, invite
Damn
all
right.
your friends in to see
know,
you.
I just-
it is a rip joint. I
find
don't
that-
like it.
And I'm one of
I
these
don't
people. I like to
it.
lift the cover.
I
I want to
have a-
pick up the check. In the olden days, when I played clubs, they gave you a discount when you picked up people's checks, and they would lift the cover. Now you have to pay your own cover to see
I don't
your
like
own
it. Your
stuff.
friends, your own
I
friends.
mean,
You
it's
have to bring your own
horrible.
friends to come and see you.
I
It's,
know.
it's
But
like
when you
$20.
call it a rip joint, you're not worried about the lawsuit?
I don't. Why should I? Why should I worry? Because I
turned us up
I
one
do
time
a
ago.
showcase.
You know what
Wait,
could happen if you get a
Jackie,
lawsuit? You're liable to lose this place.
Wonderful. Jackie, let me explain to you. I do a showcase.
Right.
I present 20
No,
acts a
I
night.
admire your courage
Sunday-
and your,
Jackie. No,
and
it's
it-
important
and
that
your,
people
your
give me the
integrity.
finger, Jackie.
No, your integrity to tell the truth about what he really believes
Of
about a
course
place.
I do, because I don't believe entertainers should pay $5 cover and 2-drink minimum and have their friends all come in to see them. They
He's
do it all the
100%
time.
right. He's
It is right, and I
100%
don't
right.
like it. I don't.
That is a rip joint. I'm working for nothing. This is good.
Hey, wait a minute now. I came here to talk about Nightclub Confidential. I got to talk about
Go ahead,
this.
please do.
I also am working for
Faye
nothing.
DeWitt.
Yes.
3 Broadway shows.
More than that, but
Really?
I don't say them because it's before the time I claim to be alive.
Okay.
You don't mention the
Vintage-
Broadway shows?
Vintage 60.
Yes.
Who was in that? Which one?
Oh my goodness, that
don't-
had so many people that became famous.
Like who?
There was the first person over the title was Barbara Heller, who should be. She
Great.
was
She was
marvelous.
wonderful.
And I
Pittsburgh.
don't know whatever happened to her. Then
Pittsburgh.
I was second over the title. Jack Albertson was third in the show. What
Paul
is-
Lynn, was he in that?
No, Paul. That's Billy Barnes' shows.
That's
no. There was Bonnie Scott, who was the original in How to Succeed, was in it. Michelle Lee had a small part in it. Bert Convy had a small part in it.
Wow.
Ken Berry had a
so
small
many
part in
stars
it.
came out
A
of it.
wonderful dancer named Sylvia Lewis. And who else was in it?
I'd like to ask you something more
Yes,
important.
you go
What-
right
What is
ahead.
this show about, this Nightclub Confidential?
It's wonderful,
I'm
Jackie.
so glad you asked.
It's
I'm
wonderful.
really
Really.
interested.
No,
What
no,
is
it's
it?
about the 50s. Now, I was living and working in the 50s. I was
Right.
young. And everybody, since the show went on and was successful, I was getting interviewed, tell us about what it was like in the 50s. Well, to me, the I put my jeans on, went to work, put on my gown, my makeup came off, put my jeans on and went home. I didn't know from particular styles that your hair was a certain way or that you held your hands a certain way. I was a Danny Kaye-ophile. I loved him when I was young, and he had all these movements. And so this woman that I play, who is a on the downside star, has all these fancy movements, and she becomes very big again. It's kind of a triangle set in the 50s of like Pal Joey or Sunset Boulevard, a kind of a heel that uses an older woman, and then the younger woman wants to catch up. But the older woman is not a new story, and she surpasses the older woman. The older woman becomes drunk, and she kills everybody and herself, and it's a typical musical comedy.
Jackie Mason.
It has great music. It has
The
the
music is
music like
wonderful.
the harmonies. I like the high-lows harmonies.
Yeah.
And there's some jazz, like Lambert, Hendricks, and Ross. As a matter of fact, that number.
So you do a lot of numbers by
Hey,
yourself?
I do a lot of
Oh,
numbers
yes.
by myself, and I do. Then there's this group, and everybody is extraordinarily good.
How many are in the cast?
There's 5.
5.
Does the group sing as a group, as part of the storyline?
The idea is that everybody is supposed to be star time themselves, and they're all starting
In a
as
nightclub.
unknowns.
On nightclubs.
And hero, the heel hero of the show becomes an agent, and he makes them well known. But it has a lot of book to it. But it really is to further, to further the entertainment, which is extraordinary, and a lot of it. And the guy that wrote it is named Dennis Deal. He's about 35, and he is a 50s file.
Ah, I see.
He loves the 50s. I mean, it's all that Marilyn Monroe, Jane Russell kind of.
You don't do any standard songs. It's all original
No,
music.
we do standard
They
songs.
do. They do.
Yes, we do. It's he wrote things that sound like 50 songs.
Yes.
He wrote comedy. He choreographed
Is it mostly original music or old music?
It's
of the
just
50s?
about half and half now. Some of the songs that people would know, which I'll tell you about, is like that Black Magic, Something's Gotta Give, Love Isn't Born, Everybody's Boppin', those kind of songs. But then he wrote a whole bunch of other
original
songs in that same genre. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Jackie, you wrote a book. Tell me about your book. I got to know.
It's called Jackie Mason's America.
Tell me about that. What is it?
It's my comedy commentaries on everything that I find funny any place in this country. In every sphere of life, I do comedy about politics, about mother-in-laws, about parking a car, about buying an apartment, about love, about sex, about more sex and a lot of sex, and,
How's it
and
selling,
as much sex
Jackie?
as possible.
How's the book doing?
The book, I got no time to find out. I'm so busy reading it that
When did you write it? When did it come out?
It came out about 7 months ago.
7 months ago, I see.
And it's a huge sensation
Yes.
to whoever who bought it, but to the rest of the people.
How about an album? You have
Oh,
albums?
I've had a number
several,
of albums.
Right.
I have a number of albums. I have about 6 albums. I'm sure she has a few albums. Don't you have a few
I do.
albums?
Yes, she does. Fady Whit does.
But I didn't write a book, Jackie Mason's America.
Tell me,
Well,
Jackie.
I'm going to write a book now about this show. This is more important than
Jackie,
anything I've
no, it
ever
is.
done.
No, I want
This
your
is
show.
the biggest occasion of my
Jackie.
life.
Hey.
How somebody can make a living in this
Jackie.
building.
Yeah.
In this building, this is way too
Forget about this.
I have to tell you, I'm a Gentile, and I just think you're the funniest. You just kill me.
So God
I'm
bless
sorry
you.
I just say I'm a
God
Gentile.
bless you. I'll be in your house in an hour.
Jackie Mason,
Yeah.
your show at the Las Palmas Theater.
Right.
And how long it's going to be there?
I frankly don't even know how long it's going to be there.
But you're
I went
breaking
in-
all
I went
records.
in-
You really are.
Thank you. I
I'm
went in
s-
there for a week. We're up to the 3rd week now, or 4th, and I already committed to another 2 or 3 because the advance sale is building tremendously, and it looks like a big
Where
hit.
are you
so-
going? Where are
so
you
I'm
go-
going to stay here till as long as it
Now,
lasts.
why did you pick the Las Palmas Theater? Why not the
I wanted-
Westwood?
I wanted a building that looks a little more like this.
It is. It is. It is.
Looks
It
a lot
really
like
is.
this.
It is. It really
It's
is.
not
I
much
agree.
better shape than this. And I wanted to see
agree.
if people have the nerve to show up.
Yeah.
This is a challenge.
Hey.
I wanted to see if somebody without a gun has the nerve to show up. Because they don't drive their cars, they come in tanks, in armored cars.
Where do you make your home, Jackie, right now?
It's up to you.
No, not as up to me. You got a room? Where do you make your
You
home?
got a
right?
room, that's my home. I make my home, frankly, in both cities. I go back and forth a lot.
You
from
do.
New York and
You're
LA.
bi-coastal.
I happen to have a condominium over here. And I don't want you to eat your heart out. It looks just as good as
Yeah.
this. And it's on work.
Are you married, Jackie?
No, I was never married.
Never.
No, I don't believe in it.
I thought you were married.
No, that's for taller people.
Taller people? Well, we were made in Japan, Jackie. We can't help it. We're small.
I don't believe in it. I don't think I make a fortune all my life after taking a person who's not working to make her a partner. To me, it don't make any sense. Well, and then if, God forbid, there's a divorce, she owns half of everything that I own that she never had nothing to do with. You take an unemployed person, you make her a millionaire for my money. This is worse than communism.
Bert, he did something very funny. Where's Bert Lang? He said he did something very funny on the show. Remember that line you were telling me about? What was it, Bert? You don't remember. Well, it was, no, that
Look,
particular
it's just from
thing.
a whole night of working for 2 hours, I did one thing.
No, it was a very fun. I love the audience to hear it right now. And you used it, and you not remember it. But
he's using it too.
it was a very
He's making
funny
a living
situation.
already.
Very
I
funny.
don't even know the man. He's depending on my act for a living already.
I love that thing you did, Jackie. It was your whole show is just hysterical. You're working. You can't see him because
That's true. We have exactly the same
We're going to
schedule.
see
Same
each other
schedule.
after work. I'm going to come to the house and explain my whole show.
But you have a matinee on Sunday, right?
Right.
Yeah, no,
So
we
you
were we were just cutting out our matinee, so I'm
So you
gonna-
could see him.
I'm
Oh,
gonna go see him.
he is wonderful, darling. He's
I'll
really
save you
packed.
the trip. You can come straight to my apartment, and we can. Because I always like a matinee. A matinee is a
No, I was talking. You know what I liked? The one about the hookers on the street. The hookers
Right,
make.
right.
What's that thing you're talking about? The hookers and the other. What was it?
Should I give away my best jokes? For
No,
that?
you're just. I love that joke, Jackie. It was
It
wonderful.
was a great joke.
What is it, Jackie?
I think the joke I said.
The concert, that's it,
No,
thank
the
you.
joke I think
That's
you mean is when a girl came out of a broken down car and walked over to me and says, "Do you want to have a good time?" I said, "I just came out of a Rolls Royce. I'm living like a king."
Yeah.
This gente can't afford an outfit, a pair of pants, a shirt. She can't afford a car, a house. She has no place to live. She's asking me if I want to have a good time. What do I want to do, live like her?
That's it.